maybe I'll send them some ideas. So in Probably Yours, for example, a lot of that was my input. I wanted the Raven and I wanted a map, and we worked together on that. So I've had a fair bit of input actually, and that's been lovely. And then of course, if you're doing your own covers, then you get all the input in the world. So.
Well, thank you, Carrie. We really appreciate it. And sorry about the little mishap at the end of
No
it.
worries.
I wish I could talk to you about so many other things, because I love talking to other authors, honestly. But we do appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And oh, wait, we just got the go ahead that we can talk for another.
Oh, wow.
Since we've got another second before the other guest gets here, can you tell us where to find your books currently, or what you just kind of push yourself a little bit and tell people where to find you?
Sure, absolutely. First off, if you go to my website, which is easy, it's allthingscarrie.com. Carrie is spelled Kerry. You can sign up for my newsletter, and that's really the best way to make sure that you don't miss anything that's coming up and to get all the information about all the books. You can find my Lake Union books in Kindle ebook. The only ebook form is going to be on Kindle. So they're in the Amazon Kindle store, and they're on Kindle Unlimited, but you can find the books and the audiobooks for those wide, basically anywhere books are sold. The Carrie Schaefer books are available. I'm trying to remember what I did with them. I think the Shadow Valley books are currently, the ebooks are only available on Amazon right now, but you can get the paperbacks wherever. And right now, the Between trilogy is not available, but beginning January 31st, you're going to be able to get that on Amazon and elsewhere. And I'm super excited about that, to be getting those back out in the world. Oh, there you go. Allthingscarrie.com. There you go.
Just wanted to share the link out to everyone.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes. Well, we really do appreciate you being here, and it's so nice to be able to talk to you about your books. So, with that being said, we'll say our goodbyes, and then we'll play our little explanation as to why we're here again.
Awesome.
So thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting.
Hey there, friends and foes. Good evening, Multiverse. Welcome to the Multiverse FunRaiser. Fun as in F-U-N, fun. And we are raising funds with a D for the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. If you're just now joining us, I am the host of this session, the prophet of pop culture, John Pica, the host and producer of Back of the Cereal Box. And joining me is my Back of the Cereal Box co-host, the one, the only Peppermint Princess, emotional support Canadian, Willow Schuyler. Hello, Willow.
Hello. So I guess we'll just talk about nonsense until our guest shows up.
And
not the guest.
But look who has popped on. It is Kelly Guentner of Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, also the host of Cosplay Cafe and a frequent contributor to Back of the Cereal Box, both on our Saturday morning show and Back Issue Breakfast Club. And you guys, this has been a phenomenal weekend. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are anticipating the arrival of a very special guest, a celebrity I had a crush on as a kid, Joyce DeWitt. And hopefully she'll be arriving soon. But if not, it's okay because we've had an amazing weekend on the Multiverse FunRaiser. Kelly, tell all of our audience, just give a quick 30-second recap of who we've seen, who we've talked to, and how much money we've raised.
All right. Well, let's start with how much money we've raised. We are currently at $850, which is 42% of our goal. Amazing. You all are so generous. And oh my gosh, who have we seen? So Jason Bear of Roswell fame made me swoon on Friday. We had George Bueller do a special episode of Fanatic Forum. Amy Yazbek just had all of us in stitches. She's so hilarious, still so gorgeous. We had Guy Gilchrist, who basically drew all of our childhoods. So talented. Chris Gaucher of Smallville fame. Not just Smallville, of course, but I don't have time to list everything Chris Gaucher has been, okay? Saturday morning, a special episode of Back of the Cereal Box where you all talked about Hero at Large. 9 a.m. we had Cryptid Crunch. 10 a.m. was an indie comic creator panel with so much talent on screen that the screen could not handle it.
Literally.
Literally. 11 a.m. was Victor Garber, who is so talented. Oh my gosh. 12 p.m. was the Indie Authors panel. Sorry, I'm going through Central Time. I shouldn't even bother with times. Then we had Cress Williams, best known for Black Lightning, though he's been in so much as well. Then we had our voice actors panel, which just had so much talent. We had Armin Shimmerman, love him. And then a very special episode of Cosplay Cafe. This morning we had B-List Boosters, which was a great panel where they talked about various comic characters that are lesser known that you all should get to know and love. And then
that's one of my favorite ones. I wish I could have been on that one specifically because I'm a big fan of the B, C, and D listers.
Yes. That panel is so much fun. Like every year, I just learn so much from that panel. And I'm a big comic nerd, but I learned from that panel. I'm like, okay, this is what I need to read next. This is what I need to read next.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back to that panel because I missed a lot from the beginning. But
well, and that's the great
great
thing about this entire weekend is you can go back and you can watch the replays up until this moment. Right now, you can go watch the whole thing, but in the next few days, you'll be able to watch very specific edited segments of each panel on their own, so you don't have to search or whatnot. You can go directly to what you want to watch, and I'm super excited about that. Kelly, I've already trimmed and downloaded Back of the Cereal Box from yesterday morning, so that's one less you have to do.
Thank you.
I'll do the same for Cryptid Crunch, just for you.
Oh, I appreciate it.
If you guys need me to do anything, I have my editing program primed and ready.
We love you.
That's fantastic. So today, who else has been on the fundraiser today?
So we, Crayle and I got to interview Beth Broderick, who was she's so sweet and she's everything you could hope for her to be. She talked about her Aunt Zelda and how she means so much to fans because she was like the maternal figure to them. And she is so maternal and so full of wisdom. I loved her.
Unfortunately, now, I have a question about that. About her. Did she reprise that role on The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina?
Sort of. So they had an episode where there was like a sitcom version. So kind of like a wacky.
Okay.
So she did. I feel like that was a really good way to do it and just kind of do a nod to the original series. I just love that. And then unfortunately, William Catt didn't show up and Kristen, our celebrity liaison, has not been able to get a hold of him. So we hope he's okay.
Yeah, you know, 2003 has not been kind to our celebrity friends.
2023, you mean?
What did I say?
You said 2003. You're 20 years.
So, literally, Amy Yazbek, Friday night, was talking about how it's been 20 years now since John Ritter died. Is that not crazy to think about?
Yes.
So, yes, I have gone back in time 20 years. Thank you, Amy Yazbek.
She looks the same. She looks so beautiful.
I'm going to tell you the truth.
Ageless.
I'm going to tell you the truth. She looks more beautiful today than she did when she was doing Wings and Problem Child and The Mask. And look, that's coming from someone who has always had a crush on her. Redheads get me every single time. And I've always been a huge Amy Yazbek fan. And when I saw her Friday night, I was like,
gorgeous, right?
I was like, is she bathing in the blood of virgins? What is going on with her?
They don't age because they don't have souls.
Yes. Yep. And she kept making those self-deprecating jokes about not looking good anymore. And I'm like, do you own a mirror, lady? Do you own a mirror, honey? It's just beautiful. Yeah, absolutely beautiful inside and out. Like, oh my gosh. Absolutely
I had no idea she was so naturally funny. She just cracked me up.
Yeah, she had me in stitches. Like, oh my gosh, she's hilarious.
And Kelly, you and her were talking about cryptids. And her favorite cryptid is the Kappa from Japan. And you revealed that your favorite cryptid is the squonk.
The squonk.
Which is so funny because I'm obsessed with cryptids, and I had never heard of the squonk until the day before, Thursday of last week. And then all of a sudden you're talking about the squonk, and there is a squonk convention called Squonkapalooza.
You sent it to me. I need to go.
I did. And that's crazy that I'd never heard of him. And then all of a sudden it's everywhere. Facebook is watching.
It's creepy. Or it's kismet.
Kelly, I need you on Cryptid Crunch so that we can talk about the squonk.
We need to do it. I need to get a squonk plushie before we do that episode. There's a squonk plushie, and it's the cutest thing ever. It's on Etsy. I need it. And so Amy and I are, for anyone who missed the interview, first of all, go back and watch it. But second of all, I educated Amy on the squonk, and I'm going to tell you all, if you don't know what the squonk is this creature who is like, it looks like a fat, wrinkly potato, and it's sad because it thinks it's ugly. And so its wails fills the forest. So if you live near a forest and hear it wailing, it's like an eastern creature. And it just goes around crying all the time because it thinks it's ugly and unloved. It's the saddest cryptid ever. So of course my bleeding heart is like, I just want to love it.
But did I hear you say it dissolves in its own tears?
So if you find one and encounter it, that's how it dies. It dissolves in its own tears. It's so sad. So I want to find it and give it reassurances that it's beautiful and loved, so it doesn't have to die that way. And Amy has taken up my hashtag save the squonks cause, and her stepson Tyler Ritter. Also,
I love Dave.
Dave Mattingly says it's an emo cryptid. That's funny.
That's not inaccurate. That's very accurate. Yes. But Amy and Tyler Ritter and I are going to hashtag save the squonks. It's happening. I don't know when, but Amy and I are going to hang out. We're going to go questing for squonks, tromping around a forest. She said it. It's happening.
Now, here's the dirty little secret, Willow. I would, and I've thought long and hard about this. I've considered asking Kelly to join the cast of Cryptid Crunch because she is obsessed with cryptids. However, I have not done so because she would say yes. And Kelly needs to learn how to say no to some things. So I'm watching out for her and her mental health because I love her that much.
You are welcome to join us anytime you have a moment away from your children and your husband, and any projects that you have in between. So there is an opening if you like. You're welcome to join.
We need to do a Squonk episode. This is happening.
I love it. So yeah. If Dave Mattingly says if Morrissey was a cryptid, but Carlin Stewart asks a funny question about the Squonk. So does finding one make you a killer?
Yes.
I love this suggestion from Carl Witzman. He said, just paint nice things about the Squonk on little rocks and leave them in the woods. That way you don't accidentally hurt it. Kelly, OMG. We have got to make this happen. We have got to get video of you and Amy hiking through the woods, painting motivational messages and messages of affirmation on rocks.
I want to do this so bad. I just want to hang out with Amy. Oh my gosh. I love her so much.
Kristen, call Amy right now. Call her right now. Let's get her on the line. Let's make this. Hey, call my people.
Make this happen. And yes, make it happen. I want this to happen now.
Listen, I think that's like primetime TV worthy right there.
Right? Follow us around with a camera, make it a new reality show.
Oh my gosh. Listen, I had no idea I wanted something this badly in my life, and now it's all I want in my life.
Squonk hunting with Amy Yazbek and Kelly Guentner in smaller font, because I am not nearly Amy Yazbek famous.
You know what? I see. Oh,
or Squonk questing.
Squonk Quest.
Squonk Quest. Yes. This is it. This is our show. Amy was saying that Hollywood's not giving her good projects. This is our show.
Amy, we're going to make a project.
You know, you guys are going to make hip waders look awesome.
We can do it.
We can do it. We can make this happen.
We're making hip waders sexy again. I don't know when they were sexy, but we're bringing sexy back to hip waders.
So Carl Witzman says, good idea. It's a serious idea. Yet, listen, Carl, all I have is good ideas.
Yeah, you do.
That's all I have. But I got to take issue with Carl Witzman. I want to know what he means by this comment. He says, it hasn't been kind to John Pica either. 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did get sick at the beginning.
I did.
There.
And you just got some really bad news.
Yeah, so speaking of losing celebrities, and I don't want to bring the room down, but I want to let you guys know what's going on. So I have a very good friend named Jamie Slocum, who is a top 20 contemporary Christian music artist. Dove Award winner. He holds the record for a song at #1 for the most weeks in a row. Over 30 weeks. Beating Michael W. Smith and Stephen Curtis Chapman. And I found out yesterday, so in those circles, he's a big celebrity.
Yeah.
And I found out yesterday that he died tragically in a bus accident. And he was one of my best friends. We've been friends for 20 years and, confided in each other. And we as a matter of fact, we were talking just this week about him being a part of Back of the Cereal Box live events that we have planned coming up in March, and writing parody lyrics for cartoon theme songs. And, he's a big Mego collectible fanatic, and he's got this great collection. And it was just, he was so excited to have a project and it was we've been looking for stuff to do together for 20 years, and now it was going to happen. And sadly, thank you, Holly. Is that Hollis? Hollis
Thompson. Hollis. Yep. That's Hollis Thompson, who's going to be on the fanfic panel next.
Okay,
Hollis
great.
is my dear friend who he's awesome. Yeah, I think you briefly met him in a staff meeting.
Yes, I did.
Earlier this week.
So,
Hollis is excellent.
Anyway, not to bring the room down, but that's been 2023 for a lot of us. I mean, we've just we're listen, I'm at that age where my childhood is dying off, and now it is rough. It is rough. So anyway, but not to bring the room down, we're here to talk about the one, the only, the legendary Joyce DeWitt. And she has not joined us yet, but we're going to talk about her when she's not in the room. Joyce DeWitt. I love this promo photo of her. I've got to tell you guys, if you don't know Joyce, you remember her from Three's Company with John Ritter and Suzanne Summers.
And look at those beautiful doe eyes. Look at her. It's gorgeous.
That's what did it for me. Listen, I know everyone talks about Suzanne Summers and how popular she was, but when I was a kid watching Three's Company, I had the biggest crush on Janet, Joyce DeWitt. And it was those eyes and that jet black raven hair that did it for me. I'm not a blonde fan. Sorry, ladies. I am a brunette fan. And the darker that raven hair, and she was just gorgeous.
Ashley says she's so beautiful. Suzanne who?
Yeah.
And Carl Witzman says Joyce was my favorite too. I guess blondes don't really have more fun.
No, and you know what is funny is that for me, watching her and John Ritter together, the comedy was so effortless. They had such great chemistry, and I was a huge fan of, Three's Company. I watched it when it was new, and then I watched it in reruns over and over. And I love that show, and I always felt like John Ritter and Joyce DeWitt had such great chemistry, and I was always rooting for Jack to end up with Janet. And that never happened, but that's what I wanted in my mind canon. And we've got all of the comments coming in saying how much they love Joyce and loved Three's Company, and and
I'm sure there's lots of fanfics out there where Jack did end up with Janet.
Yep. Well, and I'm sure there are. And what I love is she had gone. I just read this article. Joyce DeWitt had gone 30 years without seeing John Ritter.
Oh.
And a month before he died, they were in the same hotel at the same time in New York, and she called him up, and they went out on the town together. And, they never had a falling out, but, life, work, family, takes people apart. And, one of the things I want to tell people watching is don't let that happen. Life is too short. Make sure you are on the phone, connecting with the people you love and telling them every day how much you adore them as often as possible. But can I tell a story about Joyce DeWitt?
Of course.
I actually got to meet her. And I got to meet her, and she was living in Nashville for a brief period. She did, after Three's Company, she did a lot of stage productions, a lot of plays and musicals. And she had done a play here in Nashville. There was an original play at the Nashville Dinner Theater. And I want to say it was the Waffle House Christmas or Christmas at the Waffle House. And that's what it was about. It was about a group of people who were stuck at the Waffle House during a snowstorm on Christmas Day. And she was one of the leads in that play. And then she stuck around Nashville and became a co-director with the Nashville Dinner Theater. And I got to meet her when she was directing a production of Rent. And I was doing another show in the other theater. There were 2 theaters in the Nashville Dinner Theater. And she came up and watched my show and gave me notes. Very complimentary. She was so gracious. She loved what we were doing. And so, that's my brush with the greatness that was Joyce DeWitt. And yes, I did turn into a prepubescent fangirl in her presence. I was just like, thank you, Mrs. DeWitt.
So I like Sandra's comment here. Love the episode when they tried to hide a puppy and Janet heard Jack and Chrissy in the kitchen with the puppy and totally thought something else was going on. That was a very common thing with on Three's Company, that the overhearing conversation or something happening and totally not getting the actual gist of what was happening, just like the innuendos of it all.
Yeah,
I love that.
I said this Saturday morning, and I really believe this. I do not believe that this show could be made today. There are a handful of TV shows that are classics and iconic that I don't think they could make today. All in the Family, and a few others, maybe Sanford and Son, but definitely Three's Company. It would be canceled. I like cancel culture canceled. I don't think they could make it today. What do you guys think of that?
Well, yeah, sensibilities have changed. I think there's a lot of funny shows today that work within today's culture. Like every era has their own brand of humor, and you just kind of have to look at shows through the lens by which they were made in. But you can also go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish your thought.
I was gonna say, but you can also criticize if you see something that really is problematic, and you can say, hey, yes, it's a product of its time, but this also is not a healthy thing to see in media. I think there's nothing wrong with that, while also like you can still enjoy it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of funny shows today, but yeah, it probably would not make it today.
I feel like a lot of the sitcoms that are out now try way too hard to be similar to the styles of sitcoms that we loved in like the 80s, early 90s. And I don't know, like I know a lot of people don't like slapstick comedy, but I absolutely loved it. And you know what? I don't want to talk over Joyce DeWitt and what she feels about the comedy that she grew up with.
So, ladies and gentlemen, joining us off camera, audio only, is the one, the only Joyce DeWitt. But your mic is muted, Joyce. If you can click the little icon and unmute your mic, that would be fantastic. She is here. She's in the room.
Welcome, Joyce. We're
Hello.
so happy to have you here.
Okay.
Joyce DeWitt.
So now does that mean you can hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
We're
okay.
so excited to have you, Joyce DeWitt.
Well, you're very dear. I've never done one of these on-camera, livey, zoomy things before. I do meditations online, but only they talk. I don't say anything or have to be on. So this is like, I'm sorry about the microphone thingy. This is
okay.
A new planet for me.
That's all right, Joyce. We've been talking about you while you weren't in the room. All good things, because we all adore you. And me in particular, I absolutely adore you. And you were such a big part of my my early teen years watching Three's Company. And I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to make you blush. I had the biggest crush on Janet. And I always, always loved your portrayal and your natural comedy, and just these eyes, Joyce, your eyes.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. How darling.
We love you.
And thank you. That's very sweet. It's interesting the number of young adults that I interact with or meet, like on the street in New York or whatever, who were teenagers during the time of Three's Company being prime time. And that's a very interesting time of life. The things that you fall in love with, that you feel deeply in your heart, you hold that forever. You know, it's like your first crush, so the number of people that I've had the pleasure of encountering who fell in love with the show in their teen years, it's so dear, it's so sweet. And the kindness and affection that y'all have for those characters, you transfer to us, whether we deserve it or not, but you give us that love and affection and intimacy. And it's a great gift. It's a gift that you never know when it's going to happen. You come up out of the subway in New York and you're just rushing to a meeting. And all of a sudden, there's this wonderful experience. I actually had one earlier today, and I'm sorry about the visual thingamajigger and being late. I'm on Mountain Time, and I thought I was supposed to join you all at 4:00 Mountain. It turns out I was supposed to join you at 2:00 Eastern, 2:00 Mountain, 4:00 Eastern. And
Those pesky time zones.
And I'm usually really, really good about it because I live in Mountain Time, and that's so rare that it's always a process of me having to translate what is the time for me that is the time for them. And today I just so royally screwed up. But earlier today, I was trying to test the computer hookup and sound and visual and all that stuff, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I called and talked to the Geek Squad, and this delicious young man in Panama took my call, and we were on the phone for about an hour while I'm so computer and internet illiterate. One question led to another, and he was so delicious. He was so willing to help, and he would almost think of things for me to ask before I came up with asking them. So we're on the phone for about an hour, and then he's showing me how to get into this circumstance today. And I've forgotten what it said, participant or something. And I said, am I supposed to type my name into that blanky space? And he said, yeah. So I started typing it. And he said, I don't know if this is a big public thing or just a board meeting or something. You might want to use your whole name. And I said, oh, I already typed it in. And so he looks and he goes, can I ask you a personal question? I said, sure. We've become friends over this hour. And he asked if I was that person from Three's Company. And I said, yes. And he just was so deliciously overwhelmed. He was like, oh my God. And it was during the high school years that for his life that he had fallen in love with Three's Company. And he had already been so wonderful. I had said to him 100 times, you are such a gift. Thank you. What a delicious human being you are. So we already had this appreciation for each other that now was on the table. And Three's Company gave that opportunity for this sweetness between this young man in Panama who tried to show me how to use my computer, even though I failed. But he was so patient. And so I was thinking, oh my God, who is this fellow? Can he just live next door? I mean, what a darling human being.
Well, I am so glad that he was able to help you and provide such a delicious moment. That's going to be my new word for this week. Everything's going to be delicious in honor of Joyce DeWitt. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, Kelly Guentner has posted a comment saying next year we're doing Greenwich Mean Time to confuse everyone. So there you go. Now, Joyce is joining us because this is the Multiverse FunRaiser to benefit the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. And of course, Joyce had such a fantastic chemistry with John Ritter on Three's Company. Before you came on, Joyce, I was commenting about how I was always amazed at the chemistry between Janet and Jack and how effortless the comedy seemed when you two were on screen together. Is that a real assessment? Is that how you felt as well? Was it as effortless as it seemed?
Yes, between John and I, it definitely was. There, occasionally in your life or years working as an actor, you will come upon or encounter another actor that I always say that John and I communicated kinesthetically. We did not have to say anything.
Yeah.
We could feel where the other person was going. And it was by the end of the first day, we already could feel that in each other. We just moved in cooperation one with the other. So there was, and in terms of trusting another actor, don't think I could have ever have trusted another actor more than John. There's a scene in one episode where Janet's like standing on the support of a boxing ring, you know, the poles in the four corners.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to faint backwards, like, you know, that cliche thing where you're perfectly straight and you just fall out of frame. And Jack's going to catch her. And I never once looked, and we're working on a cement floor. And I never once glanced to see was John in position. I just went through the scene. And when it came time, I just fell backwards, knowing he would be there to catch me. That is how we trusted each other physically. It's like in a ski show where Janet teaches Jack to ski. Basically, the script says Jack teaches Janet teaches Jack to ski, and there's an empty page. So we just started, yeah, that's the physical humor on Three's Company. For the most part, that's exactly how it would be. And we would just make it up. And Jonathan couldn't help but make it up. I mean, he was so intuitively and instinctively drawn to physical humor that he couldn't help himself. If there was an opportunity to plug a piece of physical humor in, it was already falling out of him before he even knew it. He was just so enormously creative. And there was a part of John who, the most important thing to him was the happiness and joy and heartfelt comfort in the other human beings. And so he was flowing with creating humor, particularly physical humor, all the time, because that's what he wanted. He wanted to see other human hearts smile. And that was a great gift to be around someone like that.
That's fantastic. Now, we have this comment from Josh Richard, who says, Jack and Janet were perfect. So many of us fans wish they ended up together. And I had commented that before you joined us, Joyce, that I always thought Jack and Janet were such a perfect and obvious coupling, and had always wished that they had ended up together.
Thank you, John. I think that's a very sweet comment, and it's not one that I haven't heard before. My honest reaction to that is I think you're absolutely right. And I think our producers made a very serious misjudgment when they spun John's character off into his own show, in the fact that it wasn't just Janet, in my opinion. It was all the characters. They underestimated the relationship of all the other characters with the American audience and the intimacy and importance of that. So I think they just were dumber than boxes of rocks. I did not particularly like working for my producers, so that was an easy thing for me to say. In fact, that was a nice thing for me to say.
Well,
they
that's
were absolute chauvinists, and it was a painful experience working for them. In the middle of this gloriously delicious circumstance and the beauty of working with these other actors and our marvelous crew, to have all that wonderment with the backdrop of working for these producers who I just to this day have the same feeling for, because they were absolute chauvinists, and that's very hard on a very liberated young woman and a young artist as well.
And really, that's the struggle between the creative industry and the ivory tower suited up money men, right?
Well, in many cases that is true, but chauvinism is a separate sickness.
Yeah,
it's not just power hungry. They were all power mongers and chauvinists. They just wore all the hats that I am allergic to being in the room with. So they were a challenge, but no matter what went on at Three's Company that might have been challenging, difficulties with the circumstance of the show, or personally, individually, someone might have, a deep family loss or some challenge. No matter what, on Friday nights when we would shoot with live audience, curtain up, light the lights, Three's Company was never anything but absolute exquisite joy. Doing the show for the audience with my comrades was never anything other than sheer ecstasy.
So I want to transition on that thought, because Joyce, I'm sure you don't remember this, but you and I have met.
Okay.
It was when you were in Nashville for a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
You had done the Waffle House Christmas play,
Uh-huh.
and you
It's a
were
wonderful play.
Yeah, it was great. And I was doing another show in that same theater, the Nashville Dinner Theater,
Uh-huh.
and I met you when you were giving notes to the cast of Rent. And the owner of the dinner theater had you come up and watch my show that we were doing in the smaller theater. And afterwards, you were so complimentary and so kind. And all I could do to respond was act like a prepubescent fangirl. I was just like, "Ah." I'm sure you don't remember that, but it made a huge impact on me and validated me as a performer and an actor and a producer. And it meant a lot.
Well, that's excellent, because when it comes to the work, I can be overly frank. It's very difficult for me to be diplomatic when I'm giving feedback about the work. So if I complimented you and supported you, you can know that it was genuinely true in my perspective and from the heart. So I'm grateful that you were able to take it in and it ended up being supportive. I mean, if we're not being supportive one to the other on this planet, what are we doing here?
That's right. And you mentioned, doing Three's Company live in front of a studio audience.
Mhm.
This is a piece of modern contemporary TV that a lot of I miss as a viewer. When that voiceover said Three's Company is filmed in front of a live studio audience. A lot of people don't know what that means, but basically you were doing on stage performance
Yes.
for a camera, and the reactions of the audience, there were no laugh tracks. All of the reactions were honest and authentic. And so I know that you, after Three's Company, you did other movies and TV, but you did a lot of live theater.
Well, mostly I went back home to the theater. I started on the stage when I was 13. That is really my home.
Right.
I was not a comfortable person in Hollywood with all the fame and all that kind of silliness. And it was not a comfortable milieu for me. So I went back to the theater. You can have a much more private life working in the theater than you can in Hollywood. And that was more important to me than anything else, was to have my life along with my work. And the theater is my home. It's the natural state. There is nowhere on earth that I'm more comfortable than doing the work of an actor on stage, not in a public circumstance like giving a speech or something, but doing the work of the actor with an audience in. At Three's Company, we did shoot live, as did many shows at the time. All the MTM shows, Rhoda, Mary Tyler Moore, and so on, they shot live as well, but completely different. So you have the set, like the living room of this, and you have the Regal Beagle and maybe the bathroom or the bedroom, depending on what we need, lined up across the sound studio. And then you have the equipment, the sound guys and the camera guys in front of that. And on the other side of that, raised up so that they can see over the camera. And so the cameras and the technical guys are the audience. And it's literally a real audience of about 300 sitting there. And most shows would do a scene, stop, break. The actors would go to their dressing rooms, change clothes, wardrobe for the next scene, come back, get touched up, makeup and hair, and go out and do the next scene. While a stand-up comedian would be entertaining the audience in the interim of maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. We would not do that. And we shot so close to live, like a one-act play, that it's almost unbelievable. You know what? I just saw that my battery on my computer is getting low. I should get my the thing. Oh, well, never mind. I was gonna say I should go plug it in, but that would be kind of complicated because, okay, I better do that. Yeah, you're just talking to an electronic idiot. I mean, this is just so. Anyway, we would shoot the show as much like a one-act nonstop play, so that, because farce comedy, which is what we were doing, trying to do a contemporary version of a Feydeau farce, a 16th century French farce, and that is a very different animal than regular comedy. Farce comedy is like being shot out of a cannon at the top of the show, and you don't stop until you're done, because you can't let the audience sit back in their seat and think about what you're doing, because it's so ridiculous. You have to keep them with you at this nonstop pace until it's over. And the classical traits of that are doors slamming, misconception, misunderstanding, people being confused for someone else, and sexual innuendo. So that's what we were trying to do. Our director, Dave Powers, who was the best tape director in Hollywood at the time, he did all 13 years of Carol Burnett. She retired the show, and we got him, thank God. What he did with our technical crew, nobody else in Hollywood was doing. We'd be shooting a scene in the living room live. And the way this works is you have 4 cameras lined up in front of the set, but working in tape, which we did, not film. Only one of those, even though each camera operator is working constantly, only one camera is actually laying down a picture at a time. The director is in the booth bringing up which camera is laying down a picture. So he's literally shooting the show, editing the show, and everything all at one moment. And he would break a camera. The cameras at that time were bigger than a wash machine. And there was a fellow with the cameraman carrying the cable that would be like maybe a 12-inch in diameter circle of cables wrapped in his arms. He would have to move behind wherever the camera went. He would have to go because they're like on wheels. And during the scene, Davey would bleed a camera gently, quietly, tiptoe. These wonderful crewmen would tiptoe down to the Regal Beagle set. And the sound guy up on a big platform with a boom, he would tiptoe down. They would move him down there ever so quietly. So when we finished the scene in the living room, Dave would pop the lights in the Regal Beagle, and we would go on seamlessly like a one-act play, unless it was absolutely impossible. If the actors in this scene had to be in there and there was a wardrobe change required, if we had to pause, we did. And if we did, we changed in quick change booths right off the set, just like you do in the theater. You do a 30-second wardrobe change, not a 15-minute one. So we did shoot it as much like a one-act play as was humanly possible, which was essential for a farce comedy to stay. It's like dancing on eggshells. You got to stay out there dancing, tiptoeing.
That's phenomenal. I love that inside baseball. Do you think, and there's been some conversation over the last couple of days about Three's Company, do you think they could do that show today?
Do you mean the same character relationships and the storyline?
Character relationships, the storylines, the innuendo.
Well, classic farce is classic farce. If you did Tartuffe, you would be doing those same elements. If you look back at the show of shows, doors slamming and the confusion of who is who, mistaking one person for another, that kind of unexpected, the unexpected is the strongest type circumstance to fire comedy, to fire humor, to get people to laugh at something is coming through the unexpected. Those elements of classical farce will play forever, quite frankly. Confusing Mr. Furley for somebody else will play no matter who's doing it, because there is that unexpected quality of the happening and what will happen now as a result of that. And that engages the audience where their hearts are already smiling a pinchy bit. And if their hearts are already smiling a pinchy bit, getting them to maybe laugh is not terribly challenging. It's like following the flow of the river. We're all in this flow together. We accept the silliness of the circumstance, and we're going to play together. That's what the audience for Three's Company gave us, such huge gift. They were willing to play with us. They would turn it on at 9 o'clock, and they knew that no matter how ridiculous this was, by 9:30, all would be well. So they would jump in the pool with us and start swimming straight away. And that really has so much to do with the success of Three's Company, that the audience was willing to play with us.
I love that. And you also did, and Carl Witzman is commenting that you played in Noises Off. That's another farce.
It is a farce comedy. And when that is done well on stage, that play can lay you in the aisles.
Yeah, it's amazing. What part did you play?
I played the housekeeper. I've only done character roles 2 times in my life, and that was one of them. I had to have like a fat suit and these big dowager boobs and all that stuff. And it was an interesting thing for somebody who zips around. I look much more the part now, certainly, than when I did it. But that play is amazing to do. If you have a good director and a good cast, the audience will be just so happy that they came.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. What a great show.
Yes.
Um,
Brilliant writing.
So now we had a comment from one of our super fans who tunes in every weekend to our programming. And
Mhm.
she wants to know, because I host a show called Back of the Cereal Box, and this fundraiser is hosted by the Cereal Box Network. So her question is for Joyce DeWitt. You're 10 years old, Saturday morning. What's your favorite cereal and what are you watching on TV?
Wowski, that is a long time ago to try and remember. I remember every Saturday morning, my sister Ruthie and my brother Doug and I in front of the TV, little kids on the floor with our necks arched back, looking up, sitting as close to the screen as we could until our parents discovered we were so close.
Yep.
Sky King
Ooh.
would be on. Fury would be on. Golly, I wish my sister were here. She's so much better at this kind of thing. She would remember way more. But those were definitely two of our Saturday morning serial programs that we watched and loved. I don't think I'm going to come up with another one. Did I have a favorite? No. I fell in love with old movies very early on. My favorites, even as a little kid, were things that Spencer Tracy did and Clark Gable in particular. I had a terrible crush on Clark Gable when I was about 8. And then when I was about 13, that crush moved over to Peter O'Toole. And those are the only two actors I've ever been drawn to or had a crush on in my life. But they were pretty big crushes.
Did you get to meet either of them?
No, I did not. And that is unfortunate, but I was actually just watching Peter O'Toole last night on a movie before I went to sleep. Not a movie that I like, and an unusual role for him because it was a scary movie, and I don't like scary movies. I don't handle them well, and they I have to shake them off. And it's unusual for him to do that sort of thing, but it was later in his career, and I watched it because I wanted to visit with him. It was like, oh, I want to have a little time with Peter. I'll watch this, and he doesn't come on till well into the movie, and I started to fast forward going, where is my Peter O'Toole? And enough with all this scary crap. And
That's
Ben Affleck is in
fantastic.
it. He's so young. It was very early in Ben Affleck's film career. He's so young in it. And Liev Schreiber is in it. But there was my darling Peter. I just, terrible crush on him. I mean, seriously, when you watch Lawrence of Arabia, he is so beautiful that it's hard to take your eyes off of him, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Would you say that Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia was delicious?
Yes, I would say he was scrumptioso, actually.
So the second part of that question is, what's in the bowl of cereal on that Saturday morning?
In the bowl of cereal on that Saturday morning, well, it would have been Frosted Flakes or Rice Krispies in my house.
Yep.
And I have a secret Rice Krispie recipe as an adult that I don't know how I created it or stumbled on it. But honestly, if you're a Rice Krispie person, you have to try this because it's unbelievably better than just the normal way of making a bowl of Rice Krispies. It sounds stupid that it would be better, but everybody I've introduced it to has been a believer. You put the Rice Krispies and the milk into a Tupperware with a lid and the sugar, and then you shake it like a martini. You shake, wildly shake it, and then you pour it into the bowl and eat it. Once it's aerated like that, the whole thing takes on this much more delicious and scrumptioso flavor. Honest to golly, put the sugar, the milk, and the Rice Krispies in a Tupperware and shake it like you do a martini.
But Joyce,
yes,
how much sugar?
Well, that depends on your taste buds. I actually use stevia as my sweetener, but for that circumstance, you have to break your rules and use real sugar because it's not going to be the same if you don't. Yeah. I would say at least 2 teaspoons.
Okay.
Minimum.
Well, we're going to have to try that on our Saturday morning show, the Joyce DeWitt Rice Krispie special.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's mind blowing how different how much it enhances the taste to do that. And the only thing I can figure is that it gets aerated by that, which, aeration will expand everything, and it certainly expands flavor. So that's my guess as to why it tastes so good.
That's awesome. Now we have some viewer comments. So we're going to open this up to audience comments. And I'm going back here, and there was a great comment that I want to address and let you answer. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, AB asks, Joyce, will you ever consider writing, producing your own theater or Broadway show?
I don't know. I've been asked to write a book for about 30 years, and I'm finally getting close to, I think in this calendar year, I might actually do that. I don't have that discipline. That's a very particular discipline that I don't have. And so I have been willing to procrastinate around that absurdly for such a very long time. I don't think I'm going to be able to procrastinate on it any longer. And that's a little depressing, because this morning on CBS News Sunday Morning, which is one of my very favorite programs in the world, I love it. They did this segment where there's this new, what do you call it? Something on a computer that can do things like a program, not a program, but a app or something. I don't know what the right term is, but there's a new one, and it writes. It will write in prose. It will write poetically. It will write Shakespearean rhythm and cantor and so forth. And I was like, oh my God, Joyce Ann, people might not think you actually wrote it. You waited too long. And I was like, that can't be another excuse for procrastinating. You have to do it and see what happens. So I don't know about writing. I'm not drawn to the idea of writing a play or a film script. I don't think I'm naturally witty or clever. I'm not a person who makes you laugh at dinner parties or, whatever. But when it comes to knowing how to deliver, understanding without mentally getting involved, how to deliver comedic material, that's built into my body. But I'm not a naturally witty or humorous person.
I understand that deeply. I'm the same way. Another question, and you kind of addressed this, but Ashley A asks, Joyce, have you ever considered writing a memoir or even just a book sharing the wisdom you've gained over the years? And you kind of addressed that, but a memoir of...
Yes, a memoir, absolutely not. Thank you, Ashley, for that's a lovely question. And people do ask that, but maybe if everybody I ever knew in my life had passed to the other side, maybe I would do a memoir. To write about other human beings and their lives and their personal experience is a huge responsibility I have no desire to take on, because every human being is wired differently. So their perspective and how they see circumstances and what happens is different. So for me to pretend that I could write a situation of an interaction with other human beings and fairly represent their perspective would be quite arrogant on my part and uncomfortable. I would not feel comfortable doing that. So a memoir, no way, Jose. But the book that I have in mind to write, I suppose you could say it would stumble upon the shelves if it ever became a book, in self-help or self-realization, that it would be a gathering together of teachings that I've come across and opportunities to learn and grow that I've stumbled on or been given that maybe I incorporated into my life. But for the most part, I'm awfully lazy and the incorporation has been minimal. So, but they were teachings I believed were of great value. So to share those, and maybe somebody else would be better at incorporating them and using them in their life than I was.
Maybe you need to connect with a co-author, a ghostwriter of sorts.
Yes, but that would, I know, and I reckon, I mean, I know it's done a lot, but I'm pretty. What is that? I'm trying to find the right word. I like to say, well, I like to speak for myself. And I'm not good at it's like, there have been times in negotiations over the years for different projects. Well, I will finally just say, let me talk to them, because I know exactly what I think and what I mean. And it's a part of the whole paparazzi game of being in Hollywood that I so escaped from and just was so miserable with. People putting words in my mouth that are not my words are really hard for me to take. If you ask me something, I will tell you the truth, but I will tell you the truth as I experience it. Someone else painting a picture of it that it does not come from my heart or my head is really hard for me to tolerate. And that's how I kind of feel about writing a memoir. These other people may not feel about the situation the way I felt, and I'm the one with the pen in hand. So, no.
I love that answer. That's a great answer. More audience questions from Willow Schuyler. She asks, Joyce, your voice is so youthful and full of life. Have you done any voice acting for cartoons or for other voice acting projects?
No, I have not. And thank you for asking, because the truth is I'd be delighted to do a voice in a cartoon. I mean, it's just the ability to just play that much is just so seductive. So I would love to do that. But the truth is, and people always say that my voice is very specific. It's like if I'm standing in line at the movies to get popcorn or at the post office to, mail something, people in front of me, I'll talk to a friend or maybe speak to someone else in line. And the people in front of me with their back to me will turn around and go, oh my God, I knew it was you because I heard your voice. And I'm like, oh, my voice sounds very normal to me, ununique. But people always say it is. So there was a period of time, it was very brief, and that I did auditions for doing voiceovers, like in commercials and whatever, and nobody hired me. And because people have always said, oh my God, your voice, blah, 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 I thought that would be something that I would enjoy doing, but nobody asked me to do it.
That's funny, because just in that brief answer, all of a sudden it occurred to me that you sound a lot, the character of Penelope from Wreck-It Ralph sounds like Joyce DeWitt.
Huh.
And I could have sworn when I saw that movie that it was you, and until I looked at the credits, I was like, man, they really went out of their way to make that character sound like Janet.
I don't know the movie, so I don't know the character. But if they did, okay, cool, because I loved creating her, and I'm glad that people think of her. She was pretty cool. In talking to this young man in Panama earlier today who was trying to help me not fail at computer stuff with you guys, and for which I so apologize. He had said that he had seen the show when he was in high school in Spanish, because that was, his native tongue, and that's how they aired it in Panama. And I had said to him that the show was dubbed into Spanish. That was the first language it was dubbed into. It was in 33 countries at one point. So it was dubbed into basically all the languages one might think of in the larger mass audience areas. But Spanish was the first one. And I remember John and I went up to the office, to the conference room to watch the first episode that had been dubbed and see how that was. And the woman who did me, this voiceover artist, I mean, oh my heavens, I tend to make a lot of little sounds that aren't dialogue. I just, there's all this little stuff that just kind of comes out of me. And I've been allowed to, with Janet, I was allowed to do it, but it had so much to do with the thrust of her and the presentation of her. But this marvelous voiceover actress who put the program in Spanish, she got all of those sounds and she did them. So vocally, she was filling in that space that I was filling on camera, because that takes up space and I'm on camera for that. She was marvelous. So that was my one experience in voiceover. Was I wasn't the one doing it, and it was really good, and that's probably why.
So another audience question from Monica B. She asks, speaking of John Ritter, what would you say it was the greatest gift or lesson that he brought into your life?
Well, I would say the greatest gift it's a tie between his friendship and the relationship that we had working together. It'd be pretty hard to pick one of those over the other, because it's such a gift to work with such a gifted actor so well, so naturally, so kinesthetically. I mean, it's rare in your life as an actor to come across that. And when you do, the gratitude that you have for it is so huge And yet to know John and to know this wonderful human being and have him as a friend and be able to have that relationship, that would be very challenging to try and pick which one was more precious or a greater gift. And since you've asked that question, Monica, on the website for the Ritter Foundation, the last thing, I believe it's about the last thing on it, is a quote from John that Amy has put on there about his life intention. And I think it's a really, really wonderful time to read that, because this will describe to you why he was such a gift to know and love. Jonathan says, I want to be remembered as just a guy who was interested in the golden thread of humanity that intertwines us all together. Now, isn't that precious and sweet?
That's perfect.
Yeah. And that's so John. So there you have it. It's tough to decide which was the greater gift, his friendship or his fellow acting skills. I don't know.
Now, he always called you by a nickname. He called you baby.
Yes.
Did you have a nickname for him, or did you just call him Jonathan?
Most of the time, Jonathan. I like saying the long, elaborate versions of names, and that really is his name, Jonathan Southworth Ritter. So that really is his name. But I like, if somebody's name is Tom, I enjoy calling him Thomas. Or if his name is Nick, I love calling him Nicholas. I love language and the beauty of it and the magic of it and the music of it. And there's not much music in Nick, but there's a lot of music in Nicholas. And so I enjoy, so Jonathan, I would call him, but he did call me baby. It was a hoot. He'd go, baby, you're just too serious. Stop it. So, yeah. And Richard Klein, he would always call me princess, and I would call him witchy. And to this day, we'll run into each other in a public place, and he'll go, princess, and I'll go, witchy. And we will embarrass the hell out of ourselves in that moment, but it sticks.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, good friends.
I was reading an article about your last night with John Ritter. Was it in New York?
It was in New York. It was magical. And given my complaint earlier about the paparazzi and running and hiding from their horror, they gave me the gift of that last night with John. I was staying in a hotel on Central Park South, and ABC had all of the stars of its television series, in a hotel on Central Park South, housing them during the weekend that they were doing all the upfronts for the new season. Upfronts are where they go in, they do all these interviews for supporting the fact that the new season is beginning and their show. And so they were staying down the street from the hotel that I was in. I don't remember why I was in New York, but I was in New York. And I had a little Walkman. Most of your audience probably don't even know what that is.
Oh, our audience knows.
Oh, good. Because I would travel with little meditation tapes and stuff, and my little Walkman died. And so I needed batteries. So I walked out of the hotel, and I stood there between 5th and 6th and Avenue of the Americas. And I was like, which one am I going to come to batteries sooner? And I remembered that on 5th Avenue, there was one of those electronic stores, really not too far down. And I thought, okay, I'll go over to 5th, which caused me to walk in front of John's hotel. Well, out of the hotel that he was in, there's a whole team of paparazzi filling the sidewalk. That sidewalk there is 4 or 5 feet, 6 feet deep. And so I went into the street to walk around them. And I'm just in my sweats and my tennis shoes and, and one of them recognized me, and then go the cameras, and there's all that silliness and and I'm moving as quickly as I can, but trying not to be rude, but moving on as best I can. After I get about 6 or 8 feet away from them, one of them said, John's inside. And I was like, what? And he said, John's in the hotel. And I said, oh, no, I didn't. Thanks. So I kept walking, and I thought, Joyce Ann, that's a message. Don't go ignoring it. So I turned around and went back to my hotel and called his hotel and asked to be connected to his room, got his voicemail and left a message. I said, Jonathan, I don't know what you're up to. I know why you're here. So it's probably a really busy time. I'm here too. In case it works to get together, give me a call. So then I'm in my room trying to decide now what to do. And I thought, I'm going to go to the movies. So I look at what movie schedule to go to, and I pick a movie, and I change into something a little warmer so I can walk up to Lincoln Center and see my movie. And just literally, as I reached for the doorknob to leave the hotel room to walk up to see the movie, my phone rang, and it was Jonathan. And he goes, "Baby, we got 5 dinners to go to and a party." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, I'll be by for you at 7. And I said, "What's the dress code?" And he said, "Nice but casual." I said, "Okay." So that was it. At 7 o'clock, he came and got me with his dear friend and representative at the time, Bobby Myman, who was a great friend for many years as well, to both of us, but particularly to John. They'd known each other forever. And the 3 of us went to these different events that he had to go to that were on the schedule of his having to make an appearance, and then ended up at this little Italian restaurant in the Village late at night for a late supper, and just had spent already like 5 or 6 hours together. And by the time we finished the day, it was 4 a.m. It was marvelous. We just had all this time together. And it was so sweet because Bobby Myman had been with John as his representative and agent lawyer from the very beginning. So I met Bobby like a day after I met John. We were children together and grew up in this business together. And that we spent all of these hours together. We couldn't help but reminisce. We'd be sitting there at something, and one or the other of us would reach over and grab the knee of the other one, like we suddenly had this remembrance. So we had a great deal of life review of the time shared and the happiness of it in that night. That would never have happened without that person from the paparazzi.
That's such a beautiful story. I love that.
Oh, it was more, even better. The restaurant was next to a little tiny fire station in the Village. And it was a warm night, even though I was going to bundle up for the movies because I always get cold in the movies. But so the firemen were out on the sidewalk, getting fresher air. And because, those things in New York City can be pretty small. Mm-hmm. Even the little fire stations can be pretty tiny. And when we got out of the limo, the firemen all looked over like, "Who is that? What's that?" And they waved and we waved, and we started to go into the restaurant, and we told everybody who was with us, "You go ahead in, we'll be in a minute." So we went over and visited with the fire guys. And it was such a wonderful moment to watch them talking to John, being happy to meet him, and John trying to entertain and be humorous for them. And the play between these gentlemen was adorable to watch. It was like one more icing on the cake that night to see how everyday Americans appreciated this man and how much he appreciated that they did, and watch that exchange. It was lovely.
That's fantastic. Well, we can't keep you all night. We could post audience questions all night long, but I'm gonna leave the show. I'm gonna leave you with this one question, and this comes from Giovanna. Of course, she says, "Hi, Joyce. Lots of big fans here. And by the way, Joyce DeWitt, we are right now at the highest viewership during the weekend that we've been with you here on with us. So that's phenomenal."
I know. And isn't it terrible that I'm not on camera? I do apologize to everyone. And I also apologize for being late. And truly, it wasn't because I wasn't absolutely tuned in and committed to what I thought I was supposed to do, but it was 2 hours different than I thought.
That's okay. You don't need to apologize, but a lot of big fans here. And Giovanna asks, "What's your favorite Jack and Janet moment on Three's Company?"
Oh, my land. There are so many. And anytime John and I were doing physical humor together, it would be pure joy. There's one where we're on the couch and we think that Chrissy has been kidnapped. And the two characters are talking about that. And Jack makes a joke about it. And Janet grabs a pillow and slugs him in the gut with the pillow. I love that moment. Don't ask me why. I think it's because it was such a joy to do it with John. There are moments where doing things with him, we're watching Jonathan, you couldn't help but notice what he was doing, what the actor was doing, which is not a good thing as an actor, to fall out of character and the reality of the character into the reality of the actor when you observe another actor. But with Jonathan and Don Knotts equally, it was very difficult at times not to be aware of what they were doing because it was so damn good. So that moment I don't even know how to tell you other than John delivering this line so innocently, and it was such an inappropriate thing for his to say, and Janet just to whack him for it. It was just, I love that moment. And also to another one that I think so many people have mentioned to me that it must not just be my favorite or on my top list, was the ballet where Janet is in a ballet class, and her ballet teacher ends up leading her on, and Jack comes to the studio to help rescue her heart because he knows that she's finding out that she's been led on by this fellow and her heart's going to be broken. And the sweetness of that moment as the two of them dance as that episode goes out is a delicious moment.
I remember that. I remember that episode, and absolutely it is one of my all-time favorites. Well, Joyce DeWitt, you have been a true delight. And there are many, many more audience questions and comments that we just don't have time to get to. So I apologize to everyone in the audience who asked a question. They are posted on the live feed, and we'll answer or address them if possible. And Joyce, if you're on social media and you want to address some of those questions offline, that would be fantastic.
Well, I just have to stop you right there, John, because I don't do any sort of social media. So
that's okay.
I apologize to the people who have asked questions that we haven't gotten to. I would happily answer them but it is not something that I do. I'm not comfortable.
That's
with
okay.
It, so I don't do it.
No explanation needed. But we are going to thank you so much for being with us and for joining us on this fantastic journey to benefit the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. And is there anything coming up for Joyce DeWitt that you want our audience to know?
No, actually, I had tripped and fell and broke my arm in 4 places. So I pretty much have cleared my schedule because of being a one-armed bandit, more or less. And what a learning curve that is. Talk about lessons in compassion for those who are a little more challenged physically from somebody who ordinarily doesn't even think twice about it. What a huge learning curve this has been. So not until the summer.
All right.
We've cleared my schedule till then so that I have time to regain all the parts of me that kind of got lost in the shuffle for a while.
Well, we all love you. We all appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. And with that, I'm going to roll our video about the John Ritter Foundation. And as I do, we will be switching over to the next panel, which is a fanfic panel, which, Joyce,
yes,
there may be some fan fiction writers in the panel that have written Jack and Janet fan fiction where they end up together. But with that, thank you once again, Joyce, and have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you, John, and thank you to your audience, and thank you for everybody who tuned in. Please do take a look at the Ritter Foundation website. This is a very sensitive circumstance that is rarely diagnosed properly in time to save the life of the person. So it's important information. Take a look at it. And if you've got an extra 5 or 10, make a donation. The foundation could use it, and they use it well. They use it with great consciousness and intention. So if you have the opportunity and you have a little extra, if you're not buying gas or food this week, you might have a little extra. If you're buying gas or food this week, never mind. I understand.
Well, that's a perfect segue. So everyone, take a look at this.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right, welcome back. You're gone so long. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Kelly Guentner. I'm going to be hosting the Fanfic Panel. Just to give an update of where we are in the fundraising, we are at 42% of our goal at $850. Thank you so much to everyone who's donated so far. Everyone's been really generous, and our guests and team have been generous with their time. So thank you to everyone who's been generous with their time as well. And now I'm going to bring on my panelists. So first of all, I have someone who's been both a panelist and teammate. So hello, LW Salinas.
Hey, it's Lauren. Hi.
I thought it was okay to call you Lauren on screen, but
yeah, thank you for checking. Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I always like to respect people's, some people like to keep it private. So welcome. You look adorable. I love what you're wearing.
Thank you. It actually.
Yes. So cute.
It's so warm.
I love it so much. Oh, I love Dave. Hello, Dave Mattingly. Dave Mattingly says, Wonder Woman. There was a joke the first time I wore this on air that this is a 3D Wonder Woman shirt. And yes, it is. And
amazing.
I know. And next up is my dear friend Hollis Thompson. Welcome, Hollis. You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Hey.
Hey. As I said in the chat, you're looking very dapper. You look very handsome.
Oh, thank you.
Very, very much like how dressed up you are. I love it. Yes, Dave Mattingly, I'm pretty sure you are the one who made that 3D Wonder Woman joke, and it was hilarious, okay? And then the last contestant today is Mary Garner. Welcome, Mary.
Hello.
Mary.
Hey, Lauren. I don't know why my camera acts like it can see me on my end. There it is.
Yeah, you're...
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Now you're moving.
I'm going to blame the snow.
It happens. All right. So first things first, let's just go around and I'll have you all introduce yourselves and your connection to geekery and fan fiction. So I'm going to go clockwise, so that we'll start with Lauren.
So I have been technically writing fanfic since I was like 9 years old. My first self-insert X-Men character going on adventures. These days, I mostly come to it from the reading side. Yeah, the writing switch has not been flipped in a while, but we'll see. I'm trying to get back into it.
Maybe this panel will inspire you.
I hope so.
And what about you, Hollis?
I'm Hollis Thompson. I am a English faculty member at the University of Arkansas Hope and Texarkana. I am basically a story scholar. That's what I've kind of landed on. That's the through thread of all of my very eclectic interests and things I do scholarship on. I'm really interested in stories in all their different formats, how they work, what they do for people, how they form identity. And so fan fiction is, I think, a very interesting and important type of story. And I'm really interested to talk to you all about it.
Excellent. And Mary?
Yeah, much like Lauren, I've been writing fanfic since I was probably about 10 or so. I don't know exactly when it started, back with Star Wars and Hardy Boys and things like that. And then nowadays, I still do both. I do a lot of reading, but I also still write. Been working on a long fic that I'm trying to actually ascribe to the whole finish it before posting thing. We'll see how well that goes. I mostly stick usually to one or two fandoms at a time when I'm writing, but have been doing it for quite some time now. I try not to think about how long that's actually been.
It's always better. And of course, I'm Kelly Guentner. I've been writing fanfic since I was probably 15 or 16, back when my family first got the internet. That was back when my family was an early adopter of the internet. So if that tells you how old, you can guess my age. I said my age on the Jason Bear panel, so go back and watch that.
computer in the kitchen and the modem sound and
Yeah,
dial-up
back when
sounds,
you had
yes.
computer rooms in your house.
Oh yeah. And so, yeah, and Lauren and I actually met through sort of a fanfic thing.
Yep. I brought up the journal role-playing in the B-list panel, since one of the characters that I played at the game where we met was my favorite B-list character.
Nice.
As soon as you picked that character in the chat beforehand, I was like, oh yeah, I remember.
Yep.
And I love Dave Mattingly's comment. 4 panelists enter, 1 panelist leaves. And then he says, I think my first fan fiction was Scooby-Doo when I was 8, which
Nice.
I love that.
Nice.
So
I love just knowing what people's first fanfic was, because I feel like that tells you a lot about, kind of, it's a snapshot of a time.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot of fun to kind of learn that. And also sometimes, you find people who actually recognize your original fandom and you're like, oh my gosh.
And that's actually my first question. So, go ahead, Lauren. You brought it up.
Okay, so like I said, my very first sort of attempt at fan fiction was my self-insert character when I was in 4th grade. I remember actually writing this while just out of my mind with fever with chickenpox, about a character who had shape-shifting powers and could shapeshift into animals. And then that went on to me, again, unknowingly writing Star Wars fanfic with my best friend since I was 3 years old. And we were writing, it was like anti-self-insert, it was us. But instead of like, oh, everyone loves them, no, they hated us and they were constantly trying to get rid of us. But yeah, then Dragonlance, Backstreet Boys, again, Star Wars, X-Men. I'm very glad that the computer that I wrote most of my stuff on at the time was not connected to the internet and has since is probably long destroyed. It was what was it? It's this one Apple model. It was forever ago.
Yeah, the old apples that were like this thick.
Yes.
Front to back. That's front to back. That's not the
Actually,
monitor.
it might have been Macintosh by then.
Oh yeah, I think they were still Macintoshes, but they weren't
Oh, yeah,
the
back
cool
then.
Macs. Mm-hmm.
Oh God, no. We didn't have cool Macs until
Way later.
college, really.
What about you, Hollis? What was your first fanfic?
Wow. Probably when I was like 5 years old, I did all of these, like trying to do my own comics of Star Wars, Batman, Spider-Man. That was the earliest I can remember. That's part of what set me down the path I'm on. Was I've always loved stories since I was as young as I can remember. That's been the constant thread in my life. And a lot of the earliest stories I experienced were the fandom stuff, the Batman, Spider-Man's, Star Wars, all of that. The last one, the earliest one that I can like still remember what it was when I was like 17 years old. I tried to write a Spider-Man novel and it was never finished, but I got like, I think close to 100 pages into it. And that was an important part of my journey as a writer. So there was that.
That's impressive. What about you, Mary?
Oh yeah. Oh geez. Actual first one I honestly can't remember. It was probably either Star Wars or Nancy Drew or Hardy Boys, something along those lines. I do distinctly remember writing a story of each of those for school at various points in time. And then first ones I actually started publishing on the internet was the old Adventures of Sinbad show back in what was that, like the early 90s or whatever. I still love that show. It's horrible, but I love it. And I do actually still have most of those old fics. They were on floppy disks, and they have since migrated amongst computers. I'm pretty sure they're on my current hard drive, but I try not to look at them.
Oh God, I found the computer that I wrote my high school fanfic on. It was a Macintosh LC2 that I got for free because our computer lab at school was upgrading.
Nice. Oh my gosh, I love
Yep.
that.
And I read the most books, so
Well,
I feel like that goes hand in hand for sure with writers. For me, it was. Now, I don't remember if I wrote things before this. I know I wrote things before this, but I don't remember if it was fanfic. But Buffy. Buffy was my first fandom. I put a lot of Buffy fanfic out there. I'm pretty sure some of it might still be out there. I don't.
I know that.
I don't know. And then we have, so Johnny, back of the cereal box, who are our hosts, shared my first fanfic was X-Men. I still revisit it from time to time. Johnny, I want to see that. I want to link to that. And Dave Mattingly says Lauren writing The Fugitive.
oh god, the crush I had on Harrison Ford as a kid. I might have.
I still have a crush on Harrison Ford, okay?
I mean,
is pretty awesome,
yeah.
to be fair.
Especially Harrison Ford back then. But you know what? He's aged well. And Willow Skylar of Skylar Productions says, I have yet to finish my Castle one that I have up on their website. So is that on like the Castle website? Interesting. And Dave Mattingly asked Kelly, did you also like the Buffy movie or just the series? Okay, look, I love the Buffy movie. It is one of my favorite B movies. They are two different animals. I adore the Buffy movie. It's amazing. Oh, and Willow Skylar says the X-Men fanfic comment was actually me. Willow, I need a link to this. And Crayle is going to write fanfic based on My Scorcher by Kelly Edwards. Oh, Crayle, I love you. Crayle's also my editor, so Crayle, as long as you're not writing stuff based on what I told you about it's happening in the third book, I'd be a little mad about that, but otherwise.
I feel like as a creator, you really know you've made it when someone writes fanfic about the thing that you have made or are in or whatever.
For real, like if someone wants to write fanfic of my book, y'all have my permission.
Which reminds me of, so Interview with a Vampire came out. We have the Mayfair Witches starting to air. The Anne Rice fanfic purge. Do you remember? I was in the middle. I was in the middle of reading this, like, one of those script fic, like, kind of duck-amuck authors messing with the characters fanfics. I was in the middle of reading one of those. I came back after school the next day to open, to finish reading it, and it was gone. I was like, I know I didn't imagine this. And then a day later, I found out, no, Anne Rice said that she will sue.
Yeah, people wonder, or people kind of laugh now because there's still old fanfics that have that little disclaimer that I don't own the characters. Please don't.
All of my old ones that are like on fanfic.net, like all of them have those old disclaimers. I think
like that was going to protect us.
I don't own it, just playing in the world.
There's a debate about how much validity those have, and there certainly are. So I'm actually an intellectual property attorney by trade. So there are actually like there are IP scholars who debate about in a positive way about how much protection those give, and it is certainly something that kind of like works at least as a factor to say, hey, look, like I clearly wasn't trying to make money off of it because it says that right here, and that is one of the factors of fair use. So they're not totally worthless, but like AO3, because AO3 has, so many more protections and a legal team and all, it's not kind of as necessary somewhere like that. But they're not necessarily completely useless. It's just no one's ever really tried to find out if they're actually worthless or not.
Lauren, I feel like we're underqualified for this panel with Hollis.
No, there was a reason that I was like, no, Mary needs to be in on this because
my rants about intellectual property and fanfic.
It's fascinating stuff, in my opinion.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but I hang out with a bunch of them apparently.
I mean, you could like throw a rock and hit my house, so
technically, yes. Yes.
Legal disclaimer, anything Mary says does not constitute legal advice.
Yes, no, I am not anybody here's attorney. This is not legal advice.
Yeah.
So you actually have to pay me to be your attorney?
Which you should.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't do copyrights kind of like in my day-to-day, but I've done a bunch of research on it.
That is so fascinating. I really do appreciate you being here and sharing an interesting perspective. And I like what Crayle is saying. Crayle Vanest said,
Exactly.
My editor again says, it never hurts to be completely clear that your work draws on another artist's stuff, in my opinion. Agreed.
Yeah.
And that you're not trying to monetize it.
Exactly. I mean, it just helps make it clearer that, you're not, I guess, trying to screw them over, if you will. So, certainly can't hurt to be like, hey, I'm just playing. I'm not making money off of this. Please don't sue me.
Because there was someone a few years ago that, I don't know if you guys remember this, but this guy wrote a James Potter prequel to the Harry Potter series. And he
Yes.
really did try to sell it.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this.
I do too. I mean, there's been more than a few either purges or attempts by, companies to be like, hey, don't do that. I mean, Lucasfilm actually tried to force everyone to publish theirs on the Star Wars website and follow a bunch of rules. It didn't work, obviously, but they tried, and most of fandom was like, no, we're not going to do that because your rules are all crazy strict and blah blah blah, and they ended up backing off. And that's happened a few times where Warner Brothers tried the same thing with Harry Potter, tried to force everybody to kind of follow a whole bunch of rules, and everyone was like, no, we're not going to do it. And by the way, if you keep telling these poor kids, because they went after a couple of minors and tried to make them take their fanfic down and stuff, and it's like, you keep doing that, you're just going to give yourself a bad name. And so it's happened a few times, but most of the time the companies have backed off because it just ends up looking really bad for them. But then obviously then you have people like Anne Rice, who kind of followed through on it to some extent, and people did take it down. So
I feel really bad because one of the authors who has been like, please don't, I don't agree. I think his view has softened in recent years, where he would prefer that people not write fanfic, is George R. R. Martin, particularly about A Song of Ice and Fire. And one fic that it was a fic series that I was very happy with. It was an X-Men First Class and A Song of Ice and Fire crossover. I ended up just writing it in a couple, one of those days when you're writing and it's you look up and several hours have passed and you've written 6,000 words.
I love those days. I wish they happened more often.
Yeah, I feel that
right?
the last time it happened to me, it had to happen at midnight, so I stayed up all night at Mary's house. Actually, I was babysitting your dog, and I ended up writing a fanfic instead of going to sleep.
Well, I'm sure. Was it Athena and Sawyer?
It was Athena. It was Athena. I think you were taking JD to the vet.
I'm sure Athena was happy to keep you company. She's under my feet right now, actually keeping us all company.
Yes, she was a very good writing partner.
She is really good for that, mostly because all she does is sleep. She's old Australian Shepherd. As opposed to Sawyer, who tries to help.
But he's a baby, so
he is.
He is a 100-pound baby.
Yeah. He's on the floor right there. I don't think, even if I didn't unblur, I don't think anyone could see anything but his feet.
So can each of you sum up for me why you think fan fiction is valuable? I know this is a loaded question, but we've talked about why authors talked about authors being against it. And obviously there's sometimes a stigma, but who wants to go first?
Okay. So from a technical standpoint, it's great especially if you're a kid doing this, if you're, a kid, a teenager, you are kind of learning as you write. You are learning about characterization and trying to keep things in a set bound. It's like coloring inside the lines. You're training yourself to do that so it's believable, so it's legible. And also, kind of similarly around learning around that time, it's been incredibly important for people who are, discovering their identities to, write their queer characters, write their, AUs, write their, just whatever. There's a school of thought about writing that everything you write is a little piece of you, and you are learning how to direct all of that at that age.
Yeah, and actually, I'll go next then, kind of to expand on, or go off of what Lauren said. Yeah, there's a huge value to it, even from the reading perspective, right? Of kids, or even not kids, really kind of exploring and learning more about other orientations or genders or anything like that, and like in my case, just as a personal story, that is actually, like, fanfic is actually what helped me realize that I was, not straight. So it's like, it has a really big benefit, even if you're not writing, if you're just reading in a fandom, as well as, of course, the technical aspects of it can really help you work on your writing. But also, I think it just, it has value purely from, hobbies are important, and even if it's not meant to be I want to write original stuff in the end, and this is helping me learn to do it, just from the fulfillment it gives to write it and then have other people comment and read it, and, get to play with characters you really love or settings you love, and just play around and do fun things in a way that you really can't in so many other hobbies or aspects of life, right? Like my day-to-day is pretty heavily constrained by what you can and cannot do. And so, fanfic lets me just be like, and now I'm just going to write, I don't know, cross over these two random ass things because I can. Like, who's going to stop me? So there's I think a lot, huge benefit to it just from that perspective as well, whether it's reading or writing it.
So I see value in fan fiction in both a more individual sense, kind of what you guys are talking about. I can relate to that 100%. I would not be the writer I am today if I hadn't gone through the fan fiction phase. And I forgot to mention, I'm also a playwright. So I thought at the beginning I was going to be a novelist, but then I learned better and I found out who I was as a writer later on. And I realized that drama is where I'm supposed to be. But I wouldn't have gotten to that point if I hadn't gone through that fan fiction phase. And if I'm being completely honest, as a creative writer, I still, in a sense, everything I do is still fan fiction, because the plays that I write, one of them is about Brer Rabbit, pre-existing folktale character. Another one is involving fairy tale elements, and I'm also the artistic director for a nonprofit in my area called the Biblical Drama Institute, and I write a lot of plays adapting stories from the Bible. So all of the stories that I love that just happen to be public domain, I can therefore make plays off of.
Now you can go, write about like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, and Winnie the Pooh.
Sherlock is a little bit.
Well, no, that one completely went.
The vast majority of Sherlock Holmes, not the very latest stuff, but the vast majority of Sherlock Holmes is public domain now.
Yeah, now Sherlock Holmes with emotions, they won't sue you over.
But I totally want to write a Winnie the Pooh play, by the way. That's totally something awesome. on my
yeah, list. Come on, the stuff that is actually fanfic that people refuse to admit is fanfic. Like, there's a movie that's coming out again based off of the original A.A. Milne designs for Winnie the Pooh. It's a horror movie called Blood and Honey.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and
it's fanfic.
Exactly, it's fanfic. Enola Holmes, fanfic.
Every tie-in novel written for Marvel, for Star Wars, for insert, thing here is technically fanfic. They're just getting paid for it.
Dante's Inferno was self-insert fanfiction.
Dante drives me crazy, by the way. Every time I teach World Literature 1 and I get to Dante, I'm like, okay, guys, I have to teach him because he's important, but...
Oh, come on. He gave us Sexy Satan.
Oh, my God. But did we need Sexy Satan?
Sure, I mean, did we... I was trying to come up with a...
Did we not need Sexy Satan?
Yeah, but then I was like, but then somebody can answer yes, and I'm like, I don't want that.
No, you don't. But that does bring me to the thing that I am actually very, on a more philosophical note about fanfic and society. Throughout all of human history, at pretty much every other point in the history of the world, stories are always building off of the work that other people have done. We wouldn't have people like Ovid, we wouldn't have people like Dante if they hadn't been able to expand on the characters that had become part of their cultural mythology. And what I think is really interesting about our time period from a scholarly standpoint is that for pretty much the first time in history, we have lost, in many cases, the role of the storyteller as individuals in society that understand the power of stories to form identity, to form ethics, belief, core values, because you do, all of us, our ethics, our identities come in large part from the stories we experience. But now, interesting point of history, it's no longer individuals who can take on that role of storyteller unhampered and do the work that they really think is important in telling stories that they think need to be told ethically with whatever characters they want to. Instead, in large part, our mass storytellers in our culture are these corporations that are driven by profit. And they can put individual storytellers in charge who may be very gifted people who see this as a calling, but they also might not. And sadly, I'm very concerned for our society about whether some of the real genius things that could be really done for these characters, that could be done really well in society, especially with superheroes and things like that, that have become so embedded in our cultural consciousness that now the only one who has the power to say what is canon, what can be put out there, are these corporations. And again, I don't hate copyright law. I am a creator myself. I appreciate the fact that copyright law exists. But when I see these types of things happening with corporations shutting people down, such like that, I'm very concerned for our society. And I'm piggybacking some of these points off of an activist named Benjamin Nolet, who pointed out the role of corporation as storyteller.
So bouncing off of that and kind of along with the whole identity question, the good thing about kind of where we're at today is that there's such a low barrier of entry for indie creators. Whether, fanfic being this kind of big equalizing zone right there, and you are having people who do not see themselves as having their, through the mainstream, place to give you entertainment, like the stuff that's not on TV, that's not being published. So people explore a lot of their identity through there. You have a lot of, I know so many trans people and non-binary people and, queer of various places along the Kinsey scale, ace people, being able to use these characters as not only a place to explore, like, okay, what would be the result of this, but to bring out things that they really connected with. These days, I read so much wrestling fanfic. It's like my brain one day decided to check out, hey, I wonder what this scene looks like. And now I have like 50 tabs open on my phone, specifically just of wrestling fanfic. But there's a lot of wrestlers and their archetypes that a lot of particularly trans mask people have projected their identities onto, because it's like, okay, here there's, whatever. Projecting their identities is the wrong group of words. It's more like, this is what I relate to in this person in a way that maybe was not intended. And, people grab onto characters for whatever reason, whether it's, there's something in this character's background or behavior or something that you relate to, and you just grab onto that, and being able to kind of explore that without this huge barrier of entry, and being able to link your friends, and then they can link their friends, and you meet up with more people who are similar. It's been incredibly heartening to see.
And I just want to read Tabby Toby's comment that fan fiction is a really good place to discover identity, since mainstream media doesn't explore it in a good and healthy way. And
I like to read a lot of like polyamorous fic, because why have a love triangle when you could simply close off and be a triad? But the presentation in the media is like Sister Wives on Discovery.
If you get any at all, yeah.
Or see if you get any at all, or, just all of that stuff. But a lot of poly people do a lot of writing about, like, okay, here's a lot of the dynamics and stuff, like communication and mutual respect and stuff like that.
And I like Willow of Willow Skylar Productions. She says, I know it's common to read bad fanfic at conventions, but I do find it more exciting when you can get voice actors to read a sonnet or a passage from a popular story. Sign me up, Lauren.
So I actually love doing this. There is, I don't know if I would call it fan fiction, but it is a particularly interesting bit of fan work in the artisanal dildo makers thread on Something Awful back in the day. Somebody actually came up with a valid.
Not where I expected you to go with that. I just want to say. I feel
look up Something Awful Puntl, Puntl, which is the vulgar term in Sindarin for an elf's dick. And there was this whole biological explanation of, okay, why has there never been a successful, like, male elf, human, female, all the examples we have, the two examples that we have are female elves with male humans. And then just extrapolating from there, and it resulted in a 3D model of it being sold. But it's one of my favorite things to read out loud. That, and I know Mary and I still bring up Legolas by Laura all the time and quote that constantly. Legolas heard sound
joining us right now. I'm sorry, Hollis. He's like, what?
Look, you want to talk bad fanfic? I have not stopped making Dobby Stretches Sir jokes since I heard about it. But it's, again, it becomes one of those weird little folklore bits down the years.
Well,
kind of
look at the My Immortal fic, right? And like how many times people rip on that.
I love it.
Any fan space,
I want to say there might be references to that in current bits of media that are being created by people from our generation who grew up with people, reading out My Immortal to torment their friends.
Oh my gosh. I hope that author is living his or her best life wherever they are.
There's been so much mystery. It's actually incredibly fascinating about trying to find out who wrote My Immortal. There's been just so much.
The fact that there's actually been people like falsely claiming to like be the author of this fic.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a fanfic.
But it's at the same time
it's that big of a cultural touchstone.
It's like claiming that you were DB Cooper. Like
it was really Stephen King.
Yes.
I would love that so much.
So I like Dave Mattingly's comment, a good book will inspire a reader, a bad book will inspire a writer. And I just want to say that some fanfics, they kind of fill in the gaps. So if a story ends in a way that is unsettling, or if a TV show leaves a cliffhanger, or if your favorite writer or if your favorite character gets killed off, fanfic can make it better.
Mm-hmm.
So much.
I love all of that. There's been so much interesting stuff, both from people who are like, okay, I'm going to write, a fix-it fic where Thorin Oakenshield doesn't die in The Hobbit, and just there's like Hobbit fandom is fascinating. And there's also people who have legitimately kind of spun off from being furious at pieces of media. One of my favorite book series, the Boss series by Jenny Trout, writing as Abigail Barnett, I think. It was kind of an FU to all the bad BDSM stereotypes in 50 Shades of Grey. And it's always kind of beautiful to me when you're able to take this just negative feeling about they did this wrong or they could have done this and exploring something new with it.
I wish there were quick guidelines. It doesn't exist. I wish it did. The copyright standard is substantial similarity, which, depending on which court, which circuit you're in, mean a lot of things. And then there's several factors of fair use, one of which is of commerciality. But then there's, of course, the whole thing of, hey, fanfic, people actively try not to get money off of, but then, like, fan art, people sell all the time. And it's considered kind of totally okay. So, honestly, I really wish there were quick guidelines. It would be great. They do not exist. It's all exceedingly squishy, and it's never really made it to court on the fanfic side, or even, I think, on the fan art side, now that I'm thinking about it. So there's not really any precedence either, which makes it equally extra difficult, because there's nothing we can really point to that a court has done to say, hey, yeah, that's, here we have something resembling a standard.
Do you think that might change in the next, 10, 20 years?
It might. I mean, as more and more authors kind of have their start in fanfic, I actually almost see it going the opposite way, simply because we're going to have less and less authors who have issues with it. Right? A lot of big name authors nowadays started in fanfic, are all about fanfic, still write fanfic themselves under other names. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I almost feel like we're going to have less opportunity for those kinds of cases, which I think is probably, is not necessarily a bad thing, simply because we're just not going to have the authors that are out there trying to do the fic purges, because they're just like, yeah, whatever, write fanfic, it's cool. Like, just don't try and sell it and pretend you're me. But it could happen. If it does, I would hazard a guess that the OTW, the Organization for Transformative Works, if nobody knows who they are, will be actively involved, since they have a legal team, and that's who runs AO3.
We love AO3.
AO3 is
go ahead. Sorry, Hollis.
No, I'm sorry.
No,
we academics have a bad habit of talking over people and thinking we're the only ones who have something valuable to say. So if I do that to anyone, I'm sorry.
No.
Go. I would really love to see a case about this go through court. I was really hoping that the case, I can't remember the names now, but there was a Star Trek fan film that had raised a lot of money, and Paramount sued them, but they settled out of court. And I was really upset about that, because I would really like to see this go to court and have a definitive answer from the legal system about what these corporations do and do not have the right to when it comes to intellectual property. Because, like I said before, I am super concerned about the long-term effects to our society when characters that, again, are such a part of the culture being owned by certain corporations when their original creators have long since passed on. And that's something I would really like for a level-headed judge or jury to be able to give a definitive answer, I hope, in the right direction. Because, like we've been saying, or you guys have been saying, if you don't make money on it, in theory, that makes it okay. But
it is technically only one factor.
Exactly.
But it is a significant one. Depending on
And
the
again,
circuit,
I'm not
but that
a
is
lawyer.
commonly, that's commonly one of the big ones. But it is technically only one factor. That said, I don't know that we're going to get necessarily judicial activism. It's just that there needs to be a case of first impression, and there just hasn't been, because of things like this. The like the Star Trek case. I can't remember the name of the fan film either. I was trying to find it in my own notes, but that they ended up just settling. And it didn't go anywhere, and so it's kind of like, well, now what? So I guess we'll see if we get anything.
I hope. I hope. Again, my main thing is that there are certain corporations. I'm not going to name them. There's one that anyone who knows me knows I particularly hate, who have been known to try to squash anything that they feel will hurt their brand in some way, whether they're making money off of it or not. And that's the kind of pettiness that I just can't stand.
Yeah, there's a
I
few
know.
of those.
Nintendo went and did that a few years back.
Nintendo's one of the ones I was thinking of. Yeah, they get very, very cranky about anything they think hurts the image of, like, Pokemon. Which, on the one hand, you can kind of understand because it's targeted at kids, and then on the other hand, it's kind of like, yeah, but... that's the parents' responsibility. I completely agree, actually, with the AI authored stories not being copyrighted. There's not an author there. Also, it's they're always based on other stuff, so that's a whole thing too. Technically, even fanfic though, like, has a copyright protection. It's just the copyright that the fanfic author would possess is primarily, of course, going to be in the things that they have added, their own story, their dialogue and stuff, but not in the underlying characters or setting and stuff. So, even fanfic authors do have at least some copyright protection. But again, it's never truly been explored, like, just how much, because historically, fanfic authors have often backed off. They didn't have, the support necessary to fight it because, like, the OTW and all didn't exist at the time. And then now in recent years, corporations have become a lot more wary about doing that and a lot more smart about incorporating fandom into things. And of course, again, so many authors nowadays are fanfic authors themselves, or at least are pro fanfic, so that they're not terribly inclined to go out there and pull, the Anne Rice thing and try and kill all fics about them.
I also, just for the sake of fun literature history, my man, C.S. Lewis, way back in the 60s, gave unilateral fan fiction approval because he actively encouraged kids writing to him about if he would ever write another Narnia book to just write their own and keep going.
I love authors that do that.
C.S. Lewis was so neat in so many ways. Like, I'm a fan. So we're running low on time because William Cat showed up after... time zones are so tricky. So there's a little bit of a time zone snafu.
I can't tell you how many times I had to go in and correct this in my phone. We just moved, I've been here since June, to a new time zone. And this is the first time I've ever been out of my home time zone. So the mental math is, it's real. The confusion is real.
I'm telling you, next year, Greenwich Mean Time, screw everyone. Everyone will be confused. We'll all be confused together.
We'll all be confused together. Yeah, I was really, really glad that you gave me the time in Mountain Time, because I was like, oh no, if I have to convert this is going to be bad.
My brain gets confused so much whenever, Sorry, go ahead, Hollis.
No. I interrupted you. You go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because my best friend lives in Eastern Standard Time. I'm Central. And even just trying to call her. And I'm like, what time is it? Are you an hour behind me, an hour ahead of me? I don't know. Which way is it?
Oh, man.
So being an English professor, I'm typical in that I'm really bad with numbers. So I feel like now for the first time ever, I'm surrounded by people who are living my same life for the first time. With the
I used to know calculus. And now I can't remember +2 -2.
Right. I'm like, my undergrad's in engineering, but there's a reason I ended up going to law school, and it's because math and me do not always mix. Now I don't have to know math.
I work with numbers every day. I have no excuse. So I'm gonna go around the table, I was gonna say, and have you all give us your last thoughts. So last thoughts on fanfic.
There was this whole thing I wanted to say about people writing fanfic therapeutically or reading fanfic therapeutically, but people do that. I mean, discuss it, I guess. I'm always happy to discuss fan fiction, philosophy, theory, whatever you want to call it, off of this. So
we'll save that for part 2 next year. Sounds good. It is very therapeutic, though. Agreed. Okay, Hollis.
I would say never let somebody look down on you if you believe that you have a story that's worth telling, these exist out there, and you're writing fan fiction. A lot of scholars, I'm going to speak to my own group of people, scholars have not been kind to fan fiction in general. And I just want to tell you, Shakespeare almost never used an original plot. He took almost all of his plots from other people. If I'm not mistaken, some playwrights who were still alive at the time, that he took plots and he made it better. If you believe that you can do that, don't let anybody look down on you. 100 years from now, you might have the definitive X-Men story that later on scholars are like, yep, that was the best one. So don't ever let anyone look down on you if you believe
Lancelot wasn't an original character in the Arthurian myth. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, he got added in.
Chrétien de Troyes made him up.
Yep.
And then they kept on writing more of it. And that was an important part of medieval literature.
Mm-hmm.
And what about you, Mary?
Yeah, I guess kind of the same thing. Yeah, fanfic is awesome. Everyone should write it. No, not necessarily everyone should write it. Just because it's not for everyone. I know a lot of people go, hate on like, oh, bad fanfic, etc. And I'm just kind of like, dude, I've reread the stuff that I wrote when I was 12, and it was terrible. But you don't get better unless you do it. So yeah, don't let anybody like bash you for writing bad fic or anything either. But write what you love, and I just wish in general fandom, would kind of take that a little more. It's like, write what you want to write. If you don't like it, don't read it.
Tag accordingly.
Yeah, tag accordingly, please. Like, definitely, yeah. AO3 is amazing. Tag accordingly, but write what you want to write. And yeah, fanfic is awesome, and should
and
like
things should not have to be monetized to be worth it.
Yes. Don't let anybody tell you that just because it's fanfic, it's not worthwhile, because it's totally worth something. Whether it's monetized or not.
It's all I've been able to read over the pandemic. It's like my brain just grabbing for comfort.
Yeah, because you don't have to like learn the characters. It's like, oh, I know these characters and I just want to watch them fall in love 50 different ways, damn it.
Or 50 different fics in the same way.
I think that works too, right?
Yeah, it's, again, there is no one way to do a thing. Have fun exploring.
Exactly.
Great. And where can I find you all online if I want to stalk you online?
So everywhere that I'm at professionally is at my website, lwsalinas.com. That includes voiceover roles, podcasts, audiobooks. I do audiobooks. And on Twitter, I am Sithwitch at SITHWITCH. If you want to talk to me about fan fiction or witness me shitposting about wrestling.
Love that. And what about you, Hollis?
Oh, sadly, I'm not very much out in the interwebs. The best way you can get in contact with me is to enroll in a class at my university. I do teach the online comp too at University of Arkansas, I hope in Texarkana. But if you're interested in me as a playwright, like if for any reason you thought, oh, that sounds like an interesting play, I'd like to think about it for my local theater group or whatever, you can shoot me an email, Hollis, the letter C, Thompson @gmail.com, and I'd be happy to show you what I do.
Yes.
I am Lurks most places, LURKZ. That is the name I write under AO3 and on fanfic.net, although that stuff's all fairly old, so please don't judge me. And then on on Twitter specifically, it is at Lurks, LURKZ05, because tragically Lurks alone was taken. But yeah, I'm always happy to talk about fanfic and fandom stuff, and I haven't really been posting on Twitter lately, but a lot of what I do is, Wheel of Time stuff and screaming about things like Babylon 5 and gay stuff and whatnot.
Nice. You can find my fanfic on Dreams of Never at AO3. I don't know if I should open that up, but you know what? It's out there now.
Oh, okay. If
Too late,
everyone's
Kelly,
sharing
it's too
theirs, then I am Sithwitch13 on AO3, probably also on fanfic.net, but I haven't been on there in 20 years.
Pretty sure that's also your fanfic.net name, but I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, it's some
I know mine
variation
is lurks on
thereof.
both places.
I think mine's the same. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I need some fanfic cred. So I'm going to say I've got 2/3 of a script about superheroes that if any theater producer or Comic-Con is brave enough to want to put it on, there's that. Otherwise, I don't. No.
I want to be in that.
If I could memorize lines, I'd want to be in that.
I want to do it. We could do it as an audio drama.
I was going to say.
We could, and that actually might work best for this one. So awesome.
Talk to me if you're interested.
Okay.
Let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna roll the video and then bring in our special celebrity guest and our host. And thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun.
Thank you. I'm glad we got to have this.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you.
I was super honored. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right, welcome back. So we're going into overtime, and I'm going to bring on our host, Doug. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, glad to be
Hello, welcome back.
Back
and
again.
And I'm also going to bring on our celebrity guest. Welcome, William. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry about the confusion. Time zones they're a headache.
Yeah, I apologize to everybody. I completely had my head up my ass, and I just messed up.
Well, don't feel bad because so this is Willow of Skylar Productions sharing. When I posted the schedule for the event, she forgot to read the top part where you can switch your corresponding time zone. So apparently, I had everyone turned around. It's not just you. But
all right, I'm here now. I get to visit with y'all.
That's the important thing. I'm going to drop out and let you and Doug talk.
Okay.
So nice to meet you, sir. I really appreciate you being here.
I was
Wonderful,
really digging
Doug.
that panel. I really was digging that panel you just had, by the way.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. Can't wait to hear your interview, and you two have a great time.
Mr. Cat, oh my God.
Doug. Been a fan for a long time. I mean, Butch and Sundance, the early years. I'm going back there. But just been a huge fan forever, and we're so happy to have you here and joining in with the John Ritter Foundation and helping us out with that.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm sorry I messed up earlier, as I explained a moment ago. I had the great pleasure of meeting John only once, but I spent the day with him in the early '80s, and he and I and a whole contingent of celebrities, Tom Cruise and a whole bunch of people, we all went back to Washington, D.C. We all flew together on a flight, and it was Earth Day, and we were there advocating for changes, to the health of the environment. I found him to be just marvelous fellow.
That's incredible. Thank you. And we need to. I'm sure we're going to touch all over Greatest American Hero, but you have such a wide expanse of experiences that we really need to cover as much of that as possible. Like I said, I go back to Butch and Sundance, but you did Big Wednesday in 78.
No,
78.
It was Carrie, and then I followed Carrie with First Love with Susan Day, and then Big Wednesday, and then and then Butch and Sundance, and then it wasn't too long after that Greatest American Hero, but I did a lot of theater between all of those films.
Well, that was what I wanted to talk to you about, because you were raised in Hollywood. You were raised in an actor family. I'm sure nearly everybody watching knows that your mother, Barbara Hale, was just phenomenal as Della Street in all the original incarnations of Perry Mason. But your dad, Bill Williams, was Kit Carson. I mean, holy crap. Barbara Hale, Kit Carson, Ralph Hinckley, Handley, Hinckley. I mean, it goes back and forth, but
that's actually my very first costume that I wore for the stage was a junior replica of my father's Kit Carson outfit, with all the fringe, the leather and the fringe, and I had a nice little hat, and it was fun. I got to that was done for me. He was doing a personal appearance in the late 50s. He was doing a personal appearance in New Mexico, I believe it was. And so he made me this little outfit, and I got to put it on and go stand on stage and play with the clown that happened to be there. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. But that was my very first outfit that I wore professionally.
First cosplay.
Yes, first cosplay. Yes, exactly.
Were you drawn to being a child actor? Because, I mean, your parents were obviously in the business. Were you drawn to that, or was it something you just came to on your own later on in life?
Well, I always wanted to do lots of different things. I always loved music. I was a real avid surfer. I was swimming competitively from 5th grade on, right through junior high and high school and my first year of college. I enjoyed being a private pilot for a time. I toyed with the idea of doing that. But I eventually found myself in gravitating toward the theater at Orange Coast College. I was down there for my first semester of school, and I was lucky enough to get involved with South Coast Repertory, working a light and sound board behind the scenes,
right,
with the great David Ems and Martin Benson, who have won several Tony Awards for outstanding Lort theater productions. So that was my first kind of foray into professional acting, and then I did some work with my first professional job was with David Jansen and Yaphet Kotto. I played a Marine sentry in a TV movie called Night Chase. Then I was on the pilot of Policewoman. I did the pilot of that with Angie Dickinson, and that really launched my career. It really launched my career. I did a quick stint in the National Guard for 6 months with the Air Force. And then I came back and I continued working with South Coast Repertory and pursuing all kinds of things,
Right.
But my acting career really took off after Carrie. That really catapulted me, and gee whiz, Sissy and Nancy Allen and PJ Soul,
all of that.
Piper Moore. I mean, it just, we all had a great career as a result of that film, Harry.
Speaking of Piper Laurie, it shows up in your little IMDb thing that she was like a mentor to you. And I mean, she's iconic and a wonderful, iconic theatrical movie actress. How did that happen? How did she become your mentor?
Well,
or did she? Did I read that wrong?
I think you may have read that wrong, because at the time we were doing the film, I really didn't get to meet her more than I think because I didn't work on the same days that she worked, So I think we met in passing at a soundstage, or when she was coming or she was going, and I met and said hello. But really, where we got to know each other was many years later. I was on the Screen Actors Guild. I was on the National Board of Directors for the Screen Actors Guild, which she was also. She was a part of that. And that's where I really got to know her. And that's where she played a big part of mentoring me in the politics of the Guild, quite honestly.
Oh.
And but she is the loveliest, most fabulous person. And just you can't say enough about her talent,
You are probably in a very select group of actors who have worked with their mother a few times. I mean, I think Big Wednesday was the first time that you worked with your mom. She appeared on Greatest American Hero. You ended up being the superior Paul Drake on the Perry Mason hour-long movies, mysteries, whatever. How did
that was
like?
Well, that was fabulous. I was very lucky enough. I never really got to act with my dad. He had moved in. He really left Hollywood and acting behind. By the mid-'60s, he had done that. And he became a very successful developer. He built a lot of buildings, and he really enjoyed doing that in real estate. But I did get to work with my mom. We worked together on the first time. She played my mother in Big Wednesday.
Right.
And she had a couple fabulous scenes in that I enjoyed doing. Then we did a couple of episodes. She played my mother in Greatest American Hero for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
And that was just a frickin' hoot.
And then, of course, Bill Maxwell fell for her, of course. Who
That's right. That's right. And then I got to work with her on the Masons. Now, funny enough, I had not wanted to do that after I did Hero. I really just wanted to just do theater. And at the time, I had turned it down through my agent, and I was on tour with the late great George Rose. I was doing Pirates of Penzance, a national tour, and we were in we were in St. Louis at the time. And I got a call on the phone, and it was Raymond. Well, I knew Raymond as Uncle Raymond, so he persuaded me in his own way to be a part of the production. And so my agent, with his help and a couple other bigwigs, they got me out of my contract and flew me from there up to Toronto, and we did the first episode. And that was just marvelous working with my mom.
Oh, yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah.
I read that you actually auditioned for Star Wars. You auditioned as the Luke Skywalker role.
Well, I did. I think I'm pretty sure I saw it. It was on the deleted scenes or additional material that was on the original release of the Star Wars. I don't know, was it DVDs or the VHS tapes going back that far?
Right. I think with Kurt Russell.
With Kurt Russell, yes. Yes. And I told him he blew it for me. He blew it. But Hey, we're not crying for Kurt Russell. He's
He's
had a pretty good career.
doing all right. Hey,
yeah.
Goldie Hawn. I mean, how can you? I mean, gee whiz. What can you say, right?
Yeah.
Greatest American Hero, and an outstanding TV show with incredible actors. You, Connie, Mr. Culp, just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was lightning in a bottle. I'll tell you that. The three of us together, it was just magic.
Now the story is, you saw the costume the first time on camera as your character opening the box and seeing it, and that your reaction was
that is true.
Genuine reaction.
That's true.
Is that no?
That's true. No. Steve, God love him, the late great Stephen Cannell. What a fabulous guy. Other than my father, they're probably the one gentleman that's had the biggest influence in my life.
Wow.
When he flew to New York, I was on stage. I was at the Phoenix Rep with doing a production of Bonjour La Bonjour with Diana Wiest. Wonderful Diana Wiest. Everybody knows her from Edward Scissorhands and so many films. And Steve came and flew out and saw the play in an afternoon, and he took me out to dinner. And we talked about the script and the story and where it was going. And I have to admit, I when I read the script, I thought it was laugh out loud funny. I did, but I wasn't intrigued to go, and I wasn't anxious to do television again.
Right.
Yeah, I wasn't. I was happy to be in New York and do the occasional movie. But he was so gracious and so charming and lovely that he charmed me, and I agreed to do it. But he wouldn't talk about that suit. I said, "Well, Steve, what about this? What about this suit? What's this look like?" And he said, "Oh, no, Bill. We don't worry about that." No. He said, "Don't worry about that." So he flew me out to LA, and my hair was brown at the time. I was playing a French Canadian fellow. And so in hair and makeup, after I dyed my hair, we went back out onto the set at Paramount. We were working at Paramount at the time. And I met everybody, Alex Beaton and all the other players on his team. And but I never saw the outfit until the day of the shoot. So when you see my reaction, that's it. And when I put it on for the first time, that was the first time I put it on.
Wow. That's awesome.
I was mortified.
Oh,
no, Doug, I said, well, there goes my career. It wasn't like getting to play a wonderful Marvel character like it is today.
Right.
At the time in the early 80s, 79, 80, I mean, for a serious actor, which what an idiot that I thought of myself. That was just pathetic. But for someone like me, I just thought that, I'm going to be on a cereal box and I'll be opening Zodies, doing in-store appearances. But
stereotyping was typical back then. I mean, you looked at George Reeves, you looked at Adam West, you look at all the people who played those iconic type characters. They got locked into that.
Yeah.
Thankfully it's not that way anymore. No, but I'm sure you were coming in on the tail end of that.
Yeah, no, and you got to realize there was no Comic Cons back then. There was no cons, right? I could have taken that suit and I didn't. God, that's another head.
Next time for the reunion, you'll get it on the reunion.
The reunion, yeah. Well, you know, they tried a show not too long ago. My good friend George Wendt was in it. They did a pilot of a new show with a girl in the lead, a young East Indian gal who I'm remiss. I don't remember her name. Very funny, lovely young actress. And George Wendt was in it, and it didn't go for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I remember you doing the Greatest American Heroine pilot with the kindergarten teacher,
right?
You know, and Bob Culp coming back in to continue that thread. I did not know there was a more recent one.
Oh, just about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah, because 20th Century Fox had that. No, one of Steve's daughters, after Steve passed, he kept and gave the licensing and rights to Tanya, his daughter, who was a wonderful producer, director in her own right. And she was working with some folks out of 20th Century Fox who ended up having the rights to it along with her. And they tried to make it happen. And I don't know what happened. I was never able to see it for some reason. They kept it under wraps. And I guess.
Well, that ain't right.
I know. Do something, Doug.
That's right. Let me get him on the phone.
I'm just looking. There's someone asked me about the Fairy Tale Theater. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. That Shelley Duvall.
Oh yeah.
It was wonderful.
Oh, I think Robin Williams did an episode. So many
Reed, Bernadette Peters. Some of the major players.
It was lovely, and I got to be the flower prince opposite of Carrie Fisher, who was playing Thumbelina.
Wow,
I know, pretty amazing. That was great, and I got to kiss her. And I remember saying, we were doing the scene where I was kissing her. And I said, Carrie, you just got married. It was only like a month ago to Paul Simon. I said, how is he going to feel about that? You know? And she said, oh, Bill, she said, this is the only time I can get away with it. On a set. She was great. What a hoot.
Pirates of Penzance. A lot of people, I don't know if everybody watching understands what kind of a musical background you actually have. Watching you in Pippin was phenomenal. I loved your version of Pippin. You released, I know of one album under, I think it's Billy Cat. You were
I did many years ago. It was a little overproduced and not quite. There was too many cooks in the kitchen with that, but I got to do it, and that was wonderful. Do
you still do music? Do you still play, perform, sing?
Well, I do for me. I mean, I'm not a professional musician, but it's my hobby. I play. I play music every single day, and I have for 50 years. You know, I played my piano and guitar, and I have a little thing here, and I really enjoy that. And you know, it's like instead of bowling, I play music. Yeah.
Wow. So I don't know if this is an uncomfortable thing or not.
What's that?
Early in the production of Greatest American Hero, when it was just, I mean, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have, you know, all we had were Starlog, we had the fan magazines,
right?
And there was talk that you and Robert Culp kind of butted heads in the beginning, but then found this merge, found this way to work with each other. Was that true? Was that just fiction for magazines?
No. That was true. For some reason, Bob didn't take a liking to me. Maybe because I had first billing. I'm not sure. But it wasn't Greatest American Hero and Friends. It was Greatest American Hero.
Right.
So that was probably it. I'm being a little bit snobbish and stuck up. Forgive me. I'm an asshole for doing it. But I'm just poking fun at Bob.
That's
for a minute.
right. I mean, yeah, it's just you and me, right? Nobody else.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
listening.
It's just us.
It's just,
you know, just our secret.
That's it.
But you know, we had a bit of it was difficult coming to terms. And we didn't for the first few weeks, and then I remember going to his trailer on. We were on location somewhere. We were always on location, and knocking on his door. And I said, "Mr. Culp," I said. Well, I called him Bob. I said, "Robert, we should come to some sort of détente here, you know, and there should be an arrangement so that we can work together, at least professionally." And it was then and then working thereafter that we really got to be very good professional friends. We were never really close buddies. Right. We were great professional friends, always working in concert together on the script. We made just about every scene you saw. We made lots of dialogue changes. We didn't change the plot. We didn't want to mess with what the writers had created or the producers, but we did twist the dialogue so it felt comfortable coming out of our mouths. And I learned a lot about writing from Bob Culp because I don't know if people know this. Bob Culp first thought of himself as a writer, then he thought of himself as a director, and then he thought of himself as an actor. Lastly, that's the way Bob always thought.
And you can't watch TV Land or any of the old black and white television shows without seeing Robert Culp's name show up as a writer on a lot of, especially westerns at the time. But I'm sure that being the writer and director, there's a mindset with that might have been the reason that you two just missed a little bit in the beginning. But
well, I think, you know, looking back at it, if I was outside of the thing and looking back with some perspective, I think it kind of worked that we didn't care for each other initially. Because you saw it in the pilot, we worked pretty much in a linear fashion on that show. We shot the beginning and worked our way through the script. Not all the time, but most of the time. So in the beginning, when we first met in the little cafe, when I took the high school kids on a trip, a school outing, and we met at the cafe, and Michael. One of the students has this with Bob Culp, and he takes a disliking for me, the teacher, and that was all. That all worked really, really like kind of methody, you know. That he didn't like me, and I wasn't crazy about him at the time. And then you saw that great scene that we did when he comes to my high school, Ralph's high school. And it's in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
When he said, "Okay, kid, I want to tell you how it's going to go down, right? You work for me. You wear the suit. I call the shots, and you do what I say." And I take him to task on that. And there was some real heated tension there on the set that day, you know, because that was the actor Bob Culp talking to the actor William Catt. You know,
not so much character, but
who's in charge here, but it worked. And then it was thereafter we became famous professional friends, you know. And Connie, oh my God, let's talk about Connie.
Oh, please.
Just what a lovely gal. You know, she walked on set and everyone's head turned. She's so beautiful. You know, that black hair and the big green eyes and just funny as shit. People don't know how funny Connie is. She has a wonderful sense of humor. And in fact, we've stayed good friends all these many years later.
Well, and I love that you said that you and Bob Culp ended up with almost a shorthand on being able to communicate with each other and connect with each other, because that was the word of him with Bill Cosby on I Spy was that they ended up just developing that type of we don't have to talk. We connect. We're good.
Right. It was Robert Culp and Connie Selica and myself. I mean, all three of us. We just, for some reason, it just worked.
We have questions coming up over here on the side.
Okay.
Steve Fisher, starting as a young kid through to today, I've always been a huge dinosaur nerd. I loved Baby Secret of the Lost Legend when I saw it. Mm-hmm. How many animatronic dinos were used, and what was that like?
Really, we made that film, I think it was like just the year before Spielberg came out with Jurassic Park. So when we did it, there was not a lot of animatronics. That little baby that you saw, there was actually a small actor inside of that manipulating that little creature. And I'll tell you, it was hot. We shot that just outside of Abidjan in the Ivory Coast, the west coast of Africa. It was 120 degrees every day. Wow. It was brutal, just brutal. And these people would crawl in that thing, and they could only work for like 15 or 20 minutes because it was just deathly hot. Wow. Yeah. So there was not a lot of animatronics. I think they came back, and the big dinosaurs they added after the fact. Wonderful director Bill Norton did that, and that was a lot of fun working with Sean Young. She's a trip. Yeah. I love Sean. She's a trip.
And then House. What a great. I mean, it's such a rare genre for the comedic horror movies. I mean, you can go back to Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman. You can go back
one
to
of my favorites. Oh my God, one of my favorites. Abbott and Costello. Just that's where it all came from. But let me give credit where credit is due, because Steve Miner, who directed that, he was kind of the mastermind behind all of that. He and I got along really, really well. Our sense of humor was very dark, both of our sense of humor. And a lot of that, I want to give credit to him, because he's just a wacky guy who's got, who just had so much fun. And I think at the time it was one of the first comedy horror films that was newly done.
Right.
It was post MTV. It was one of the first comedy horror films post MTV.
Because I just recently watched, I think it was Boris Karloff, but all these great horror actors in The Raven just chewing the scenery, just having a ball, being just really silly. Yeah. So and then you coming along with House, I thought, oh, I'm going to go see a scary movie. No, this is a funny, scary movie. This is outstanding. You mentioned that George Wendt is a friend of yours. Were you friends before you did House?
No, we weren't. We weren't friends before then. And we actually drifted apart for a long time. But because of the con circuit, I've been out on doing a few cons every year for 8 or 9 years now. And George is out there doing that, and we're both repped by the same individual.
Right. And Richard Mall. I mean, you had some heavy hitters in that. I mean, besides yourself, you had some home run hitters out there in that movie.
Yeah, we did. And then that was great. And a little while later, we did a wonderful film, small film, but it turned out the script was wonderful. A film called Man from Earth that has done quite well. A very, very successful cult film.
There's a question here I'm not sure that I understand, but I'm going to go ahead and throw it at you anyway. What was the process in returning for the CW crossover? We were so excited to see you, knew it was you right away.
Yeah. They called me and asked. It was the first crossover, I believe. don't quote me on this, but I believe it was the first crossover that they did. And they asked me if I would come up, and it was only a day of work. Unfortunately, I was hoping to be invited into that universe because I like the show. But they killed me off right away. But the director, and forgive me, I forget his name, lovely fellow. He was a big fan of Greatest American Hero. So he was paying homage to his early hero. Well, and he brought me up for a day, and I got to meet all those fabulous actors. And it was a very nice time.
What are you doing now? What's going on? What are your plans now? What's going on? I
pretty much retired from acting. I haven't been doing much in that. I don't have an agent anymore. I work for friends when they call. You know, if it's a decent project, nice project, and I get to work with friends, and the food is free. You know, they provide craft service table and lunch.
There you go.
You know, I've been very fortunate in my life. I don't have to work, and I'm comfortable, and so I enjoy working periodically when I go out there. I am going to do something coming up, a few days of work on a film called When We Get There for some young friends of mine. Lovely, fun film, a road film. And I believe Alfred Molina is going to appear in that film as well. I don't know who the actress will be yet, but I'm hoping to get Nancy Allen or maybe Mindy Sterling or somebody else that I know to come and spend a evening with me having fun. And,
that'd be great. Oh man,
memorizing a couple lines. So we'll see. Yeah, it's called When We Get There, and I think the film is being put together now. I think these are added scenes that the director wanted to do. Good script.
Everybody make a note.
Yeah, there you go.
You seemed to be the one keeping Greatest American Hero alive for a while. I again going just to the magazines because we didn't have the interwebs then, but it seemed like you were promoting some novels. You were promoting comic books. I know you started the Catastrophic Comics.
Yeah.
But were you instrumental in trying to keep Greatest American Hero going?
Well, I just thought it was fun. I thought it was something that I'd been a fan of comic books. I read lots of comic books when I was a kid, and I thought it was. I had a good friend of mine at the time, Chris Foligno. He and I devised this plan to try and relaunch a comic book line, and we had a third partner. And unfortunately, we were blessed. Stephen Cannell was still with us at that point, and he gave his blessings to it. Oh. And but unfortunately, we only did the first 3 comic books, which was kind of our retelling of the original pilot of Greatest American Hero. We had plans to keep going, but it just didn't work out for one reason or another. I ended up working on it so much, spending so much time doing it, that it really wasn't financially worth my while to do.
Right.
You know, I spent all my time doing that just for the 3 books.
Right.
So
when the whole attempted assassination thing came and they changed Ralph Hinckley to Ralph Handley.
Yeah.
How did they approach you with that? What was that process?
That was very quick. I mean, that happened. We were on location. I can't remember the exact location. We were on location somewhere. And when the attempted assassination took place, and it wasn't, but a little while later, when the name was revealed that it was Hinckley, they decided that the producers called Stephen, and they all powwowed, and they decided that they were going to change the name, and it became Henley Ralph Henley for, I think,
Right.
just one episode. And then it was Michael Pare, actually, if truth be told, that shortly thereafter, we were in class and he raised his hand for something. He called me Mr. H. And thereafter, Ralph became Mr. H to the kids.
I am a retired elementary school teacher. My last name starts with H, so I have been Mr. H for a very long time. So
There you go.
I totally identified with that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Anyway, what else can I? Nothing much else that I can reveal. I'll be in Atlanta the end of the month at a con in Atlanta, and then in the first week of April, I'll be in Nashville at a con. And
you'll be close to me then. I'm
well, where
4
are you?
hours. I'm 4 hours from Atlanta. I'm 4 hours from Nashville. I'm in far east Tennessee. People call Knoxville East Tennessee. I'm 102 miles east of Knoxville. So,
goodness sakes.
Yeah, I'm a 20-minute drive from North Carolina and a 20-minute drive from Virginia. So I'm right in that corner. So yeah, it's not a bad travel area. I mean, 4 hours.
I drove through it last summer. I was doing a film in Arkansas, and I drove right through that area. After I finished in Arkansas, I was driving to see one of my kids in Virginia. And I drove right through Knoxville and east, right down and up the Shenandoah Valley. Yep.
Well, it has been wonderful having you here. I know we've still got time, and if more questions come in, did you ever see or hear the rock cover of Believe It or Not in Gilmore Girls, and did you like it?
I did not.
There's a rock cover of Believe It or Not in Gilmore Girls.
Wow.
I guess we're going to be both on YouTube later, aren't we?
Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah. I thought it was fun keeping Greatest American Hero alive. You know, for a show that only ran 3 seasons, it had long legs.
Yeah.
As Seth MacFarlane once said, you know. And it was great that he paid homage, you know, on Family Guy. He paid homage to the Greatest American Hero, and George Costanza on Seinfeld, he famously had it on his recording.
Oh yeah, answering machine. Yeah.
Well, I think that, and the fact that the song of Believe It or Not was on continual rotation at so many stations across the
top
country.
10.
It really kept the show alive, you know.
If they came to you for a reunion and asked you to step into the Bill Maxwell role, not really, I mean, still being Ralph, but still step into that mentor role, would that be something you'd be interested in revisiting?
Oh, it would be fun to do the show again in whatever capacity that the creators would have in mind. I don't know that I would cast myself as carrying the torch for Bill Maxwell, for FBI guy. But there might be something that I could do in there. They could wheel me out in a wheelchair, and I could go, "You're over there."
Well, we have a question.
I tell you, that red suit would not look great on me now.
Spandex is not our friend.
No.
Somebody else has already asked, what is your favorite role? And I've got a follow-up after that. What has been your favorite role to play, stage or screen?
Well, my work on stage probably that's my favorite place to live. I really enjoyed doing Pippin. I was very, very lucky 10, 15 years ago to work with Randy Newman. Wow. And I got to play, it was an ensemble cast, the story of Randy Newman's life. And working with him was like a master's class in being a musician and a performer. That was extraordinary. I got to do a wonderful show in Kansas City called Smoke on the Mountain that I love doing, playing a preacher, a singing preacher. And again, it was an ensemble cast, but we just had a ball every night. We played guitar. I played guitar, accordion, stand-up bass, piano. We all played different instruments in this 2-hour show. It was just a ball. I had a great time. So what's my favorite? I don't know. It would probably be, so many theater experiences I've loved doing. Pippin probably is right up there.
Well, and right there, Kristen Marie's already, because I love Pippin.
Yeah.
Any tales of working with Ben Vereen and Martha Ray?
Well, Martha Ray was so lovely, and I came real close to working with her again in Kiss of the Spider Woman. A number of years after that on Broadway. I didn't get it, but I think I was the second choice. But that only counts in horseshoes. But she was lovely to work with, had wonderful stories. I knew her daughter previously, who was a wonderful choreographer. And working with Ben, he was just magic, as he comes out and magic first song.
Magic to do.
I was an actor that could move, but I was not a dancer by any means. And he spent 2 consecutive Sundays for 3 or 4 hours with me, teaching me how to do that, the choreographed dance number that we do together.
Right.
The right moves. I think that was the name of the thing.
Yeah.
He came in and taught me that whole dance, which was, he didn't have to do. That was his day off.
Oh, that sets professionals apart.
Yeah.
That's what you gravitate towards.
Yeah. He was a consummate professional. Yeah.
Were there any roles that you were offered that you passed on that you had second thoughts about afterwards, that you wish you had gone ahead and accepted?
I can't think of any offhand. There's a couple films I've done, 2 or 3 that I wish I hadn't done. I wish I could have bought the negative. But at the time there were reasons. You do a film for the money or you want to go on a nice location, or you get to work with your friends, or you want to work with the director and the writer. Fabulous. So, but at the time I made some big mistakes in my career. I was going through a divorce, and it was, I needed money, quite frankly. And I made some bad mistakes, but it's all worked out. It's all worked out.
Oh yeah. I mean, look, we're online.
There we are.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
You're still, and still
there, Doug. Yeah. So everything's worked out.
Yeah. We are running short on time. I will host a few Q&As at some conventions every now and then. One of my favorite questions to ask a celebrity is, who is the most famous person in your phone, and would you call them and put them on speaker so we can all say hi? I do that, but
let me see if I can get Obama on the phone. Okay,
there it is. That's it. Why not? Right?
Where's his number? I know it's here. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Trump's number.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
No, that's my number. What are you talking about?
Doug. Yeah.
Hey.
There you go. I don't have anyone in particular that I could. Maybe Gary Busey. He's a friend. I like Gary. Yeah, I could call Gary, and he'd get on the phone. And go, what?
Well, thank you again so much for joining us, for making time for us, coming back and finding us, and all of your memories of John all of your memories of the work. This has been an incredible honor for me, and I really appreciate everything that you've done.
My pleasure, Doug, and I'm sending my best to you and to everyone listening. I'm so privileged and lucky to be able to be here with you and with all of the very lovely fans out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're gonna go to a little commercial spot for the John Ritter Foundation, and we will be right back.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Hello, everyone. If you are still here and listening, I just wanted to say thank you so much for participating in this year's Multiverse FunRaiser. The convention is technically over, but the donation period is not. Last I checked, we were at $931, which is amazing. We raised, I believe, over $800 in 2.5 days. Yes, $931. My backstage help was just letting me know. So thank you from me, Kelly, and Kristen. That's your board of directors here for this event. And thank you so much to all the celebrities, all the panelists, all the hosts. It's been amazing. You can still donate. We have a $2,000 goal. It's going to be open for at least another week, and you can still enter the giveaway. I want to make a quick note. You can still keep your amount and name anonymous from everybody except those 3 of us who I just named, because it's every $10 you donate. Some people who've donated anonymously have not entered, and that's totally fine. If you even don't want to tell us how much you donated, if you want to enter one entry, just email us using those giveaway instructions on our website, and you can still enter, and we will not make it public anywhere, even if you win how much you donated, because I know anonymity is important to a lot of our donors. Yeah, basically, we're going to be cutting this into individual clips to help with the replay. We're going to have some tiny clips, just sharing some highlights, and then we'll have each panel and each interview separated into its own video. So make sure you're sharing this with your friends. Make sure that you spread the word about the amazing work that the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health does. I'm going to play our donation directions one more time. And in case we don't hear from you again, you've been an awesome audience. Thank you so much.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says Donate Here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.